Welcome to How to Level Up Your Life in 2026, the ultimate personal growth audiobook presented by Liberty Audiobook. The gap between where you are and where you truly want to be is often smaller than your intuition suggests, yet it can feel immeasurably wider in the daily struggle. This chasm is not a fixed reality, but a space shaped by the sum of your daily choices, deeply ingrained habits, your self-image, the standards you silently accept, and, crucially, the courage you possess to disrupt your own comfortable patterns. Leveling up your life is not merely a trending slogan or a fleeting aspiration. It is a profound, deliberate process, a meticulously crafted blueprint of internal upgrades that, when executed with intention, translate into remarkable, tangible external results. The individuals who navigate this journey and transform their lives in truly remarkable ways rarely do so by accident. They do it by design. They do it intentionally. In this comprehensive audiobook, we will delve into what it authentically means to level up, exploring these principles not in abstract theory, but through the lens of lived practice and timeless wisdom. You will unearth why identity must precede action, why the unwavering standards you set for yourself far outweigh your fleeting intentions, why consistent discipline will always outperform sporadic motivation, how your environment acts as a silent architect of your behavior, and how the adoption of long-term thinking can fundamentally rewire the entire trajectory of your life. Personal transformation, despite popular belief, is not a mysterious gift bestowed upon a select few. It is, instead, a logical, accessible sequence of steps available to anyone willing to commit, to learn, and to persevere. This journey will challenge you to squarely confront the version of yourself you have been, one bound by old stories and limiting beliefs, and empower you to consciously choose the version you are destined to become. You will learn to interrupt the very patterns that have held you captive, to construct powerful routines that generate unstoppable momentum, and to align your entire life with values that possess the strength to hold firm even under the most intense pressure. The blueprint you are about to receive is timeless, precisely because it focuses on universal principles that do not expire with changing trends or fleeting fads. This endeavor is not about achieving an elusive state of perfection, but about relentless, intentional progress. It is about evolving into a person whose actions and results speak far louder and more eloquently than any explanation or excuse. True transformation takes time, yes, but the act of leveling up begins the very instant you decide to disengage from living life on autopilot and commit to living life by thoughtful, intentional design. Let us begin this transformative journey together. Chapter 1. Choose the future version of you. Before you embark on changing anything external in your life, you must first make a fundamental, internal decision. You must decide who you want to become. This is not about what you want to own, what you want to achieve, or what you want to display for the world's admiration. This is about who you want to be at the deepest level of identity, for it is identity that inexorably drives behavior, and behavior that, in turn, shapes your results. You simply cannot level up while maintaining an unspoken loyalty to an outdated, smaller version of yourself. And yet, this is precisely the trap many individuals fall into. They chase new, ambitious goals with the same old habits. They pursue grand new ambitions with the same old, unexamined standards, and they cling to fresh dreams with the shackles of old identities. It is a formula destined for frustration and failure. You cannot upgrade your life while simultaneously remaining committed to the very person who constructed the life you are now striving to upgrade from. The future version of you, the one capable of achieving and sustaining your desired transformation, must be chosen first. Everything else, every habit, every decision, Every outcome flows from this foundational choice. Choosing that future version is far more than mere imagination. It is a strategic act of self-definition. Picture that person with vivid clarity. Do not just wish for a better future. Embody the future self in your mind as I. Ask yourself, who is the person I absolutely must become for my biggest goals to feel normal, not extraordinary, to feel entirely normal? Envision that version of yourself. How do they approach challenges? What thoughts occupy their mind? What do they tolerate in their life? And, just as critically, what do they unequivocally refuse to tolerate any longer? What time do they rise each morning? How do they speak to themselves when faced with adversity? How do they navigate frustration and setbacks? How do they show up, consistently, even when no one else is watching, when the only witness is their own conscience? These are not abstract, philosophical musings. These are profound identity questions, and these identity questions, when answered with brutal honesty, reveal the clearest blueprint for your personal change. When you consciously choose a future identity, you imbue your entire life with a clear, unwavering direction. Without such direction, every habit you possess is accidental, every decision reactive, and you find yourself locked in an endless cycle of negotiation with your old self. That old self, wired for comfort and predictability, will always attempt to keep you safe and within your familiar confines. But safety, in this context, does not equate to satisfaction. Comfort does not lead to fulfillment, and predictability, while seemingly secure, rarely translates into a truly vibrant, alive existence. There inevitably comes a pivotal moment in everyone's journey when the choice between growth and familiarity becomes unavoidable. That moment, almost without exception, feels uncomfortable, and that discomfort, paradoxically, is your most reliable signal, and that you are on the right path, that you are doing something that truly matters. Here is the profound key. Choosing a future version of yourself is distinctly different from merely fantasizing about a perfect, unattainable life. It is about making an unwavering commitment to a different, higher standard. Standards are incredibly powerful precisely because they do not negotiate. Your future self operates from an entirely different set of standards than your current self. A future self who deeply values discipline will wake up and act, even when the feeling of wanting to does not show up. A future self who prioritizes health will say a firm no to immediate cravings, even when every instinct screams yes. A future self who embodies ambition will continue learning, growing, and pushing forward, even when immediate results are slow, scarce, or even absent. When you consciously choose to become that person, you fundamentally shift the internal dialogue. You stop asking, "How do I feel today?" And you start asking, "What would the future version of me do today?" That simple shift in perspective has the transformative power to rewire an entire life. And here is a ripple effect that few people anticipate. Once you make the steadfast choice to embody your future self, your environment, your existing habits, and even your current relationships begin a process of self-sorting. Some habits, misaligned with your new identity, simply will not survive. Certain familiar patterns, remnants of the old self, will naturally begin to fall away. And yes, some relationships, those that reinforce the old you or resist the new, may not withstand the demands of your growth. Transformation, at its core, demands a cost, and that cost is almost always the relinquishment of comfort and the familiar. But the rewards for this courage are truly enormous. Your confidence will naturally increase, because true confidence is a direct byproduct of living in alignment with your chosen identity. Your satisfaction will deepen, because authentic satisfaction is the profound result of living a life on purpose, congruent with your deepest values. Your life will gain unparalleled clarity, because decisions, once agonizing, become remarkably easier when they are filtered through the lens of a clearly chosen identity. Choosing who you want to become is more than a simple declaration. It is a serious, sacred contract with your future. But it is also profoundly liberating. You are not condemned to remain bound by your history. You do not have to keep repeating the same patterns you have already outgrown. You do not need to wait for external permission or validation. Your transformation begins the very moment you look inward and say, with every fiber of your being, I am not staying here, and truly, unequivocally mean it. Leveling up always starts with identity. Everything else, your habits, your discipline, your systems, your routines, will naturally fall into place and be addressed in later chapters. But this internal declaration is the non-negotiable foundation. You cannot construct a new, elevated life on the outdated blueprint of the old one. Choose the future version of you, and then let every single action, every day, every decision begin moving with unwavering purpose toward that identity. That, my friend, is how authentic transformation begins. Chapter 2. Refuse the life you are tolerating. Every significant transformation in life begins not with desire, but with refusal. Before you can truly level up, before you can ascend to a higher plane of living, you must reach a critical inflection point where the life you are currently living is no longer acceptable. This is not about some dramatic, cinematic breakdown. It is a quiet, profound, and deeply honest realization within yourself. In the initial stages, leveling up is less about frantically chasing something shiny and new, and far more about a resolute refusal to keep settling for less than you are capable of, less than you deserve. You must consciously stop tolerating what drains your energy, what numbs your spirit, what covertly holds you back, and what compels you to play a smaller game than your potential dictates. Change, in its most authentic form, rarely originates from a sudden burst of desire. Instead, it sprouts from a seed of deep, abiding discontent. In the quiet ache, the subtle pain of staying precisely the same becomes heavier, more intolerable, than the discomfort inherent in growth. That is the precise moment when the profound shift begins. Most people, if they were truly honest with themselves, tolerate far more than they would ever admit. They tolerate habits they intellectually know are eroding their confidence day by day. They tolerate environments that breed stagnation, keeping them precisely where they are. They tolerate relationships that offer comfort but never challenge them to rise, to evolve. They tolerate the endless litany of excuses that provide temporary safety but ensure they remain permanently stuck. And perhaps most insidious of all, they tolerate the worn-out stories about who they are, narratives that were often penned by someone else, or by an outdated version of themselves who has not lived a single day as their future self. Toleration is a subtle, insidious force. It hides cunningly underneath seemingly innocuous phrases, like, "It is not that bad," or "maybe later," or "this is just how I am." But nothing, absolutely nothing, keeps a person trapped more effectively than a life that is not that bad. This seemingly harmless state, not that bad, is the arch-enemy of much better. To effectively refuse the life you are tolerating, you must first bring it into the glaring light of recognition. This demands an uncomfortable, unflinching honesty. Ask yourself, with genuine introspection, what am I currently putting up with? What am I allowing in my life that I would never, under any circumstances, advise someone I deeply care about to accept? That question is extraordinarily powerful because, almost universally, We counsel others from a higher standard, a more enlightened perspective than the one we often apply to our own lives. If a dear friend confided that they were trapped in a soul-crushing job, you would unequivocally tell them to actively explore better options. If they shared that they were surrounded by individuals who made growth feel impossible, you would urge them to courageously upgrade their environment. If they confessed to abandoning their most cherished dreams out of fear of judgment, you would remind them, with conviction, that those dreams hold immense importance. Yet, when it comes to our own struggles, our own compromises, we rationalize, we justify, we tolerate, instead of wisely advising ourselves. Refusal is, at its core, an act of profound self-respect and an assertion of personal liberty. It is saying, with quiet dignity, I deserve a life that genuinely matches my full potential, not merely one dictated by my ingrained patterns. It does not imply that you hate your current life. Rather, it signifies that you are no longer willing to live beneath your inherent capacity. That fundamental shift in attitude instantly creates a new internal standard. Personal standards are the invisible, yet immensely powerful, forces that subtly, but surely, shape your destiny. You will never, consistently, outperform your own internal standards. You might experience a moment of fleeting luck or an accidental win, but luck always fades. Standards, however, remain. When you refuse mediocrity, when you reject the not-that-bad existence, you automatically lift your standard. And lifting your standard fundamentally changes the questions you begin to ask. You stop asking, "Can I merely make this work?" And you start asking, with bold self-assurance, "Is this truly worth my finite time, my precious energy, my unique potential?" Refusal also possesses the potent ability to break inertia. Inertia is that insidious tendency to keep living today precisely as you lived yesterday, simply because yesterday is familiar. Familiarity, while undeniably comfortable, is also an incredibly deceptive trap. A stagnant life does not always scream in pain. More often, it feels quietly, subtly acceptable. And therein lies the profound danger. The life you are tolerating will not suddenly collapse in a dramatic fashion. Instead, it will slowly, imperceptibly, suffocate your potential, one quiet day at a time. That is why authentic transformation demands tension. You must deliberately create enough internal friction, enough profound discomfort to disrupt the comfortable autopilot that governs your existence. Refusing the life you are tolerating does not magically, instantly create a better life. What it does do, however, is create the essential space for a better life to emerge. When you bravely stop tolerating draining relationships, you create an open void for supportive, uplifting ones to enter. When you consciously stop tolerating lazy routines, you create fertile ground for disciplined, empowering habits to take root. When you cease tolerating the endless parade of excuses, you create expansive space for genuine accountability and progress. Growth, in this profound sense, is often less about adding more to your life and far more about courageously removing what weakens you. Remove what weakens you, and what truly strengthens you will inevitably have the space and freedom to flourish. Now, let us address the courage factor inherent in this refusal. Refusal undeniably takes courage, for it deliberately introduces uncertainty into a life that craves predictability. Uncertainty terrifies the part of your mind that clings to safety and familiarity. But here is an undeniable truth. Predictability and genuine progress rarely, if ever, coexist. To truly level up, you must cultivate the vital ability to live, even thrive, in the tension between the person you were and a magnificent person you are actively becoming. That tension is uncomfortable. Good. Embrace it. That discomfort is the most reliable sign that you are indeed moving, that you are evolving. There comes a definitive moment in everyone's transformative journey where they make a conscious, or sometimes subconscious, decision. I am not living like this anymore. That moment is sacred. It marks the irrefutable beginning of authentic transformation. For some, it arrives after hitting an undeniable low point. For others, it surfaces after a quiet, chilling recognition that they have been merely coasting for years, wasting precious potential. For a few, it dawns quietly, profoundly, in the midst of an utterly ordinary day. It does not matter how that moment arrives. What matters, profoundly, is what you choose to do once it does. Refusal, by itself, will not instantly level up your life. But without that courageous refusal, nothing significant will. You cannot commence building a new, vibrant chapter if you remain emotionally, psychologically, or behaviorally committed to the old one. You cannot forge a new, empowered identity if you are still fiercely protecting your old limitations. And you cannot authentically create a better life until you cease justifying and defending the one that is currently keeping you small, constricted, and unfulfilled. At some point, the comfortable act of settling must, unequivocally, become more uncomfortable than the demanding, exhilarating process of growing. And that critical internal shift finally occurs, the real transformation begins. Chapter 3. Audit what is feeding your mind and behavior. Every human life, in its intricate complexity, is fundamentally built upon a continuous stream of inputs. What you consciously or unconsciously consume mentally, emotionally, socially, and even digitally serves as the nourishment that feeds the patterns shaping your behavior. And your behavior, in turn, is the master architect of your destiny. If your genuine desire is to level up your life, you do not begin with a frantic chase after the outcome. You begin, instead, by meticulously examining your input stream. You start by asking a profound question. What, precisely, is feeding me? And, perhaps more critically, is what I am consuming feeding the elevated version of myself I am striving to become, or is it merely reinforcing the outdated, limited version I am actively trying to outgrow? This concept, while sounding deceptively simple, holds truly transformative power. The truth is, most people never pause to genuinely audit their inputs. They erroneously assume their thoughts spontaneously generate from within, when, in reality, a vast majority of their thoughts are absorbed from their surroundings. They presume their beliefs are carefully chosen, but most deeply held beliefs are inherited, uncritically adopted from their familial, social, or cultural environments. When you neglect to audit your inputs, you essentially become an accidental product of your environment, a passive recipient of external programming, rather than the intentional architect of your own future and personal liberty. Let us dissect this further. Your mind is an incredibly powerful, yet constantly conditioning, mechanism. It is perpetually being shaped by something. The conversations you engage in, the media you consume, the habits you automatically fall into, the individuals you interact with on a daily basis, the content you scroll through, and even the quality of the questions you pose to yourself, these elements relentlessly reinforce your current identity and your subconscious expectations. When you consistently consume negative, low-quality inputs, be they cynical news, toxic gossip, or fear-mongering narratives, you will, inevitably, produce negative, low-quality outputs in your thoughts, emotions, and actions. Conversely, when you deliberately consume high-quality, empowering inputs, inspiring literature, constructive conversations, uplifting art, or challenging ideas, you will naturally generate high-quality, empowering outputs. You cannot binge on chaos and then logically expect to manifest clarity. You cannot inundate your mind with distraction throughout the day and then, on command, demand laser-light focus. You cannot absorb a steady diet of pessimism and then magically summon the courage to take bold, decisive action. The inputs, quite simply, do not match the elevated output you are yearning for. This fundamental principle is precisely why the most successful individuals in any field, across history and cultures, are often profoundly intentional about what they permit into their minds. They grasp an essential truth. Information is never neutral. Information shapes belief. Belief shapes action. And action, with unwavering certainty, shapes results. And here's a revelation that often surprises many. Your mind does not just learn from what you consciously pay attention to. It learns, even more powerfully, from what you repeatedly tolerate. If your habitual inputs normalize procrastination, constant complaints, corrosive cynicism, or escapism, your brain, with its incredible adaptive capacity, will learn to accept that as the baseline, the default mode of operation. But if your chosen inputs normalize ambition, continuous learning, disciplined effort, and an expansive sense of possibility, your brain will intelligently adjust its baseline upward, elevating your default state. The baseline, my friend, matters more than you can possibly imagine. Now, let us consider the pervasive role of your digital inputs. We inhabit an era where attention is the new global currency, and virtually every digital platform and application is meticulously engineered to steal it, to divert it, to monetize it. The act of endless scrolling through digital feeds is far from harmless. It subtly, yet powerfully, rewires your brain's dopamine system, shortening your attention span and rendering the vital process of delayed gratification, the bedrock of every meaningful long-term reward in life, feel almost unbearable. When you courageously audit your digital diet, ask yourself this penetrating question: is this digital interaction training me primarily to consume, or is it training me to create? Consumers passively watch life unfold. Creators, on the other hand, actively shape life. There is a profound, life-altering difference between these two modes of existence. If your aspiration is to truly level up, you must intentionally dedicate more of your precious time and energy to creation mode than to passive consumption mode. Then there are your social inputs, your daily conversations, and your most significant relationships. The individuals you engage with most frequently are constantly feeding you. They feed you ideas. They feed you beliefs. They feed you emotional cues and perspectives. Energy is profoundly contagious. Confidence is contagious. Ambition is contagious. But it is equally true that self-justifying excuses and debilitating complacency are also highly contagious. If your social environment unconsciously normalizes low standards, you will find yourself fighting a battle twice as hard to elevate your own. But if your environment intrinsically normalizes growth, ambition, and personal excellence, you will not need to constantly explain or justify your desire for more out of life. You will be understood. You will be supported. You will be constructively challenged. That, especially over the long term, makes all the difference. And finally, we arrive at narrative inputs, the silent, ceaseless conversation you have with yourself, what you tell yourself about who you are and what you are capable of. Self-talk is the most intimate, yet often unexamined, input stream. If you consistently speak to yourself in ways that restrict your inherent potential, no amount of external motivation, no amount of outside affirmation will ever be sufficient to overcome that self-imposed internal ceiling. Auditing your inner dialogue is, without hyperbole, one of the most practical and profoundly life-changing steps you can undertake. Pay close attention to what your mind automatically repeats. Notice which thoughts are automatic, which narratives you are unconsciously rehearsing. Understand this liberating truth. You do not have to cling to thoughts that no longer serve your highest self. You do not have to keep repeating limiting stories that were written during the worst chapters of your life. Once you genuinely begin auditing your inputs, you will arrive at an important, often startling, realization. Some of the things currently feeding you are actively, insidiously weakening you. They render you more distracted, more doubtful, more passive, more reactive, more fragile, and, conversely, some of the inputs are actively making you stronger, more curious, more focused, more disciplined, more strategic, more courageous, more free. True growth, in this profound context, becomes a deliberate process of replacing one category of input with the other. That is the inherent beauty, the elegant simplicity of it. You do not necessarily need an intricate, perfect plan to level up. Sometimes, you simply need to stop actively feeding your weaknesses and, with intention, start vigorously feeding your strengths. This chapter serves as a powerful, perennial reminder that your day, every single day, is constantly training you. Every input you allow is a silent teacher. Every habit you engage in is a tutor. Every conversation you partake in is a lesson. The fundamental question is not whether you are being shaped. The fundamental question is who or what is doing the shaping. When you consciously take control of your inputs, you seize control of your behavior. When you take decisive control of your behavior, you claim full ownership of your life, asserting your personal liberty. That, my friend, is the authentic beginning of intentional transformation. Chapter 4. Interrupt the patterns that keep you average. Every human life, in its core essence, is a complex tapestry woven from countless patterns. We observe patterns of thought, patterns of behavior, patterns of emotional response, patterns of avoidance, and insidious patterns of comfort. These intricate patterns operate largely quietly, beneath the surface of conscious awareness, functioning like silent programming. And because they are so deeply familiar, so comforting in their predictability, they typically go unchallenged, unquestioned, and unexamined. But here is a crucial truth. Familiar does not, by any stretch of the imagination, equate to beneficial. In fact, the vast majority of what keeps an individual stuck, trapped in a cycle of mediocrity, is not some dramatic, catastrophic act of self-sabotage. It is, more often than not, the mundane, ordinary patterns, silently repeated day after day, year after year, without any conscious resistance or intervention. If your genuine aspiration is to level up your life, to ascend to a higher plane of capability and fulfillment, you must develop the acute awareness and the resolute courage to interrupt the very patterns that relentlessly conspire to keep you average. You must deliberately break the automatic loops, the subconscious programming that dictate your choices, limit your potential, and constrain your personal liberty without you even fully noticing their pervasive influence. Patterns are incredibly powerful because they operate predominantly below the threshold of conscious awareness. You do not consciously have to decide to procrastinate. Your brain, having rehearsed the sequence countless times, already knows the default loop. You do not consciously have to make a decision to check your phone every few minutes. The pattern, triggered by external cues and internal urges, often executes itself without a moment as thought. You do not consciously have to decide to avoid discomfort. The avoidance pattern, a relic of your survival instincts, kicks in precisely on schedule. The same insidious dynamic applies to chronic overthinking, debilitating self-doubt, a reflexive tendency to run from constructive feedback, the habit of starting numerous projects but never bringing them to completion, the relentless chase for short-term dopamine hits, rewards of long-term effort, and the pervasive choice of comfort over challenging growth. These patterns are not, let us be clear, proof that you are inherently broken, defective, or weak. They are, rather, compelling evidence that your remarkable brain favors efficiency, and it loves repetition because repetition, to the brain, feels inherently safe and predictable. But safe, in this context, does not and will not propel you to the next level of your existence. Safe, by its very nature, keeps you undeniably average. To effectively interrupt a deeply ingrained pattern, you must first become acutely aware of its existence and its subtle operations, and that vital awareness typically commences with a simple, yet profound, question. Ask yourself, slowly, with brutal honesty, and with deep introspection, what do I consistently do automatically, without conscious thought, that actively works against the empowered person I am striving to become? As you ponder this, you might begin to notice recurring patterns in how you initiate your mornings, how you habitually manage stress, how you make significant decisions, how you speak to yourself in moments of challenge, or, crucially, how you consistently avoid the very actions that possess the potential to dramatically move your life forward. This awareness, precisely because it brings with it the undeniable weight of responsibility, is inherently uncomfortable. You cannot effectively change what you stubbornly refuse to acknowledge or see. But once you bring that pattern into the light of conscious awareness, it can no longer hide in the shadows of your unconscious. The next vital step is disruption. Disruption occurs when you consciously choose a different, novel action at the precise moment, when the old, automatic pattern attempts to reassert its dominance and take over. It does not need to be a perfect, flawless execution. It certainly does not need to be an impressive, grand gesture that garners external applause. It simply needs to be different. If the pattern you are challenging is chronic procrastination, disruption might manifest as committing to work for just 5 minutes on that daunting task, rather than reflexively delaying it for 5 hours. If the pattern is emotional eating, disruption could look like pausing just long enough to identify and acknowledge what you are truly feeling emotionally before instinctively reaching for the snack. If the pattern is escaping discomfort, disruption might involve deliberately sitting with that discomfort for a mere 60 seconds, rather than impulsively fleeing from it immediately. These seemingly small disruptions are profoundly significant because they initiate the critical process of rewiring the old, entrenched, neural loop. You are actively training your brain, demonstrating to it, through repeated action, that new, more empowering responses are not only possible, but beneficial. Here is a timeless truth that will serve you throughout the entirety of your life. Your ingrained patterns do not need to be utterly destroyed in a single, dramatic, heroic moment. Instead, they need to be systematically weakened through consistent, deliberate interruption. Every single time you break the old loop, even for a fleeting moment, you plant a powerful seed for the growth of a new, more aligned identity. The future version of you, the one you are striving to become, simply cannot thrive, cannot reach its full potential if your current, limiting patterns remain perpetually unchallenged. Disruption, therefore, creates space, and in that newly forged space, new, more empowering behaviors can inevitably emerge. Now, let us address a common misconception. Many individuals mistakenly believe they inherently lack discipline or motivation, when in the vast majority of cases, they are merely ensnared in unchallenged behavioral loops. They judge themselves harshly, often without the crucial realization that deeply ingrained patterns are, in their automaticity, far stronger than mere fleeting intentions. You can intend, with all your heart, to wake up early, but if the default pattern is to hit the snooze button repeatedly, the pattern, almost every time, will win. You can intend to diligently work on your most important goals, but if the pattern is to mindlessly scroll for a quick dopamine hit, the pattern will inevitably win. You can intend to courageously pursue growth, but if the pattern is to avoid the risk of judgment, the pattern will, without fail, win. The fundamental goal here is not to shame yourself for past choices. The goal is to bravely interrupt the self-defeating sequence so that your future, liberated self can finally breathe, can finally act. Patterns are also inextricably linked to identity. If you hold a deep-seated belief that you are someone who consistently quits, your patterns will, with unwavering loyalty, actively reinforce that quitting behavior. If, however, you cultivate the belief that you are someone who consistently thrives under pressure, your patterns will, just as powerfully, reinforce persistence and resilience. Identity and pattern form a potent, self-reinforcing loop. Break that loop, and your identity itself begins to shift, to evolve. Identity and behavior, in the long run, cannot remain misaligned. One will, eventually, change to match the other. There is another subtle, yet powerful, layer to this. Comfort. Comfort is often the hidden, silent guardian of your old, limiting patterns. Comfort cunningly convinces you that staying exactly the same is somehow easier, safer, and far more predictable. But, as we have discussed, predictability can be a seductive trap. The truly expansive, fulfilling life you genuinely desire exists precisely outside the comfortable, familiar patterns you have built around yourself. This does not mean you must suffer needlessly. It means you must be unequivocally willing to sit in temporary discomfort, productive discomfort of growth, in order to experience lasting elevation, enduring personal liberty. Most people, tragically, never make that crucial trade. They instinctively choose the quieter, slower discomfort of regret over the active, immediate discomfort of growth. Regret, in its insidious nature, is indeed quieter, slower, and far less obvious in the moment, but over the long term, it is infinitely more painful, more suffocating. Once you genuinely begin interrupting your entrenched patterns, something profoundly interesting starts to happen. Momentum begins to appear. Momentum does not magically spring from a sudden surge of motivation. It emerges, steadily and predictably, from consistency, and consistency, at its heart, is simply the repeated act of pattern disruption, consistently executed in the direction of your chosen future self. It matters not how slow or insignificant it feels in the moment. Forward is unequivocally forward. Growth compounds, change compounds, awareness compounds. And once momentum is reliably on your side, the old, limiting patterns, though they may still occasionally whisper their familiar temptations, lose their commanding power over you. They may try to tempt, but they no longer compel. Interrupt the patterns that keep you average, and you will, inevitably, create vast, fertile space for new, empowering patterns, patterns that will, with unwavering certainty, make you exceptional. The next chapter will illuminate precisely how to construct routines that render success feel entirely natural, an organic extension of who you are, rather than an arduous, forced struggle. But none of that can truly take hold if the old, limiting loops remain perpetually unchallenged. Disruption is the first, courageous crack in the shell of your old self. It is the precise point where your most profound transformation truly begins, where your personal liberty is asserted. Chapter 5. Design routines that put you on offense. Once you have bravely committed to interrupting the old patterns that held you captive in a state of average, the next crucial step in your journey to level up is to intentionally build robust routines that consistently move you forward. These are routines that put you on offense, actively shaping your destiny, rather than leaving you in a perpetual state of defense, reacting to the world around you. Most people, unfortunately, live their lives in a reactive mode. They wake up reacting to the blare of an alarm, reacting to an avalanche of messages, reacting to emergent problems, reacting to the relentless agendas of other people, reacting to the insidious creep of stress, and reacting to an endless stream of distractions. A reactive life, by its very definition, is a life perpetually spent catching up, always behind, always in arrears. You cannot truly level up your existence from such a fundamentally defensive position. True elevation comes from deliberately designing routines that make progress predictable, consistent, and an inherent part of your daily structure, rather than a mere accidental occurrence. Progress, in its most powerful form, thrives when your life is meticulously structured to accommodate it, to welcome it, to make space for it. Routines are profoundly powerful because they act as a potent antidote to negotiation. When you rely solely on the fickle whims of motivation, you find yourself in a constant, exhausting internal negotiation. Should I do it now? Should I wait until I feel more inspired? Am I truly in the mood for this today? This internal back and forth drains precious mental energy and often leads to inaction. But when a desired behavior becomes an ingrained routine, the negotiation ceases. The decision has already been made in advance, removed from the emotional volatility of the moment. This is precisely why individuals who meticulously build strong routines often appear far more disciplined than they actually are. It is not raw, brute force discipline doing the heavy lifting. It is the elegant, intelligent design of their daily lives. The routine, once established, carries them forward, even on days when motivation is nowhere to be found, even when desire fails to show up. A truly strong, effective routine accomplishes three essential things. First, it powerfully aligns your daily actions with your chosen future identity. Second, it drastically reduces the debilitating friction between your conscious intention and your actual action. Third, it wisely protects your limited cognitive energy by automating the execution of what truly matters to your long-term growth. Let us break each of these down. Alignment means that your daily routines are a living, breathing reflection of the empowered person you are actively becoming, not merely a repetition of the person you have been. If your clearly defined future identity involves being consistently healthy, deeply disciplined, and laser-focused, then your daily routines must, without question, reflect and reinforce that identity. What you repeatedly do, day in and day out, is fundamentally who you become. There is no escaping that profound, undeniable truth. Reducing friction is about intelligently engineering your environment and your schedule to make it as effortlessly easy as possible to do what moves you forward, and correspondingly, as difficult as possible to succumb to what holds you back. If your aspiration is to read more, then keep inspiring books visibly present in your living and working spaces, and proactively remove digital distractions from your immediate environment. If you aim to train consistently, then place your workout gear strategically where you cannot possibly ignore it, ready to go. These seemingly small, minor adjustments are profoundly significant because friction is a primary determinant of human behavior. The human brain is inherently biased toward the path of least resistance. Therefore, meticulously build routines that make the path of least resistance the very one that leads directly to your progress and personal liberation. Protecting cognitive energy is absolutely essential because willpower, contrary to popular belief, is not an infinite resource. Each day, you possess a finite amount of decision-making capacity. When every single aspect of your day, no matter how minor, becomes a conscious decision, life quickly becomes exhausting, draining your mental reserves. But thoughtfully designed routines convert decisions into automatic defaults. When your healthy breakfast is pre-planned and ready, when your training session is non-negotiably scheduled, when dedicated learning time is blocked out in your calendar, when your bedtime is a sacred, non-negotiable commitment, your mind ceases to burn precious energy on what should already be obvious and established. That liberated energy can then be intelligently redirected and utilized for complex problem-solving, exhilarating creativity, impactful leadership, or accelerated personal growth. Now, let us turn our attention to mornings. You do not need a perfectly Instagrammable, rigid morning routine, but you absolutely do need a strategic one. Mornings are undeniable leverage points. They possess the power to set the entire mental and emotional tone for the day ahead. If your morning commences with chaos, with immediate distraction, and with perpetual reactivity, your entire day will, with predictable certainty, follow that tumultuous rhythm. If, however, your morning begins with conscious intention, with clear-headed clarity, and with purposeful motion, your day has the opportunity to expand, to blossom, instead of collapsing under external pressures. A strong, offense-oriented morning routine ideally contains 3 essential components: something that activates your physical body, something that focuses your mind, and something that actively moves your life goals forward. This could manifest as dedicated physical training, immersive reading, reflective journaling, strategic planning for the day, or, crucially, working on your single most meaningful project before the world at large has a chance to intervene and hijack your attention. But effective routines are not confined solely to mornings. Evenings, too, hold immense importance. Your evening routines directly determine the quality of your recovery, the clarity of your thoughts, and the momentum you carry into the next day. If you prolong your evening by scrolling through stimulating content until your mind is overstimulated and overwhelmed, your sleep quality will inevitably suffer. When your sleep suffers, your discipline, your ability to follow through, inevitably suffers. And when your discipline suffers, your fundamental confidence in yourself quietly erodes. Suddenly, you are not actively leveling up. You are, in essence, self-sabotaging in slow motion, losing your personal liberty to bad habits. A strong, intentionally designed evening routine does not need to be overly complicated or arduous. It simply needs to close the day with conscious intention. Review what happened, reset your mindset for tomorrow, and thoughtfully prepare for the day ahead. Set up tomorrow in such a way that tomorrow does not feel like it is starting from an overwhelming zero. Here is the deeper, more profound truth about routines. They are ultimately less about mere efficiency and far more about the powerful shaping of your identity. When you repeatedly show up for yourself, when you consistently honor your internal commitments, you send an unequivocal signal to your subconscious brain. I am a person who follows through. I am someone who can be relied upon. That fundamental identity shift is absolutely priceless. Genuine confidence is not built by shouting empty affirmations into a mirror. It is meticulously constructed by consistently showing up for your own commitments, by acting in alignment with your chosen future self. The fastest, most direct pathway to earning your own self-respect is to become someone you can consistently rely on, someone whose word to themselves is as ironclad as their word to others. Not every aspect of your routine needs to be flawlessly perfect. In fact, The relentless pursuit of perfection will often prove to be the ultimate destroyer of progress. A routine that is 70% consistent, reliably executed most of the time, will invariably outperform a routine that is attempted perfectly once and then completely abandoned due to the pressure of flawlessness. Consistency, my friend, compounds. The ultimate purpose of designing these offense-oriented routines is not to create a restricted, rigid, or joyless life. It is, paradoxically, to create a life where progress, where growth becomes the normal, default state of being. A life where momentum is the consistent baseline, not a rare, fleeting exception. A life where you do not merely chase improvement, you actively live within a powerful system that intrinsically produces it, day after day. When you meticulously design routines that proactively put you on offense, your entire life becomes beautifully structured for continuous growth. You cease relying on fragile hope. You stop waiting for elusive good days. Instead, you construct a powerful internal machine that relentlessly pushes you forward, even when external circumstances are far from ideal. That, precisely, is how individuals truly level up in the real world, not through sudden, dramatic breakthroughs, but through intentional, consistent routines that accumulate, brick by brick, into profound, lasting transformation and personal liberation. Chapter 6. Control the friction between emotion and action. One of the most underestimated, yet profoundly crucial, aspects of successfully leveling up your life is mastering the subtle, often overlooked, space between what you feel and what you ultimately choose to do. That space, as infinitesimally small as it may seem in the moment, is the crucible where futures are either meticulously forged or tragically destroyed. Emotion, by its very nature, is immediate, instinctive, and inherently reactive. Action, conversely, is chosen, deliberate, and powerfully directional. The fundamental problem is not emotion itself. Emotion, in all its complexity, is an intrinsic part of the human experience. The real problem arises when raw emotion is permitted to control behavior without any form of conscious resistance or intelligent intervention. When that happens, when emotion becomes the unchallenged dictator of your choices, life inevitably becomes impulsive, maddeningly inconsistent, and ultimately fragile. Consider the common human experience. People abandon their most cherished goals because they feel discouraged. They lash out in anger because they feel provoked. They scroll mindlessly for hours because they feel bored or restless. They instinctively avoid challenging opportunities because they feel afraid. They perpetually procrastinate on vital tasks because they feel discomfort. The fundamental difference between those who successfully level up and those who find themselves repeating the same year over and over is not that one group experiences fewer emotions. The profound difference is that one group has diligently learned to intelligently control what transpires in that critical space, that sliver of time, between the surge of an emotion and the subsequent impulse to act. The friction between emotion and action is the precise territory where true discipline takes root and flourishes. Your feelings, let us be clear, do not magically disappear simply because you harbor a deep desire to succeed. You will, with absolute certainty, feel tired, unmotivated, afraid, frustrated, overwhelmed, annoyed, deeply uncomfortable, and profoundly impatient. These emotions are not signals of inherent failure. They are, rather, undeniable signals of your shared humanity. But if you permit these fleeting emotions to dictate your long-term behavior, you will, with predictable certainty, construct your entire life upon the shifting sands of temporary states rather than on the unshakable bedrock of lasting commitments. Imagine, for a moment, If every single thing you aim to achieve depended entirely on your being in the mood for it, absolutely nothing meaningful, nothing of lasting value, would ever survive. Genuine growth, authentic personal liberty, commences the moment you cease waiting to feel like it. Here is the liberating truth. You do not need to suppress your emotions to achieve success. Instead, you need to intelligently separate them from the actions that genuinely matter to your future. You need to create a buffer, conscious breath, a deliberate pause, a moment where you can observe the emotion rising within you without reflexively obeying its command. This is not about denial or emotional repression. It is profoundly about ownership, reclaiming sovereignty over your internal landscape. When you deliberately delay impulsive emotional reactions, especially those that threaten to derail your long-term goals, you take back control. You give your future, wiser self a vital seat at the decision-making table, rather than allowing your present discomfort or fleeting mood to run the entire show. Controlling that friction also entails cultivating the crucial ability to sit with discomfort. Discomfort, contrary to popular belief, is not an unequivocal sign that you should immediately cease your efforts. More often than not, it is a powerful signal that you are precisely on the edge of profound growth, teetering on the precipice of expansion. Most people erroneously misinterpret comfort as danger. Their primal brain screams, "This feels uneasy," and they instinctively translate that warning as, "I should not be doing this. I should stop." But discomfort, my friend, is the unavoidable price of every single upgrade, every step upward. It is the toll you must courageously pay at the invisible bridge that connects who you currently are with who you are actively becoming. Avoid that necessary toll, and you are guaranteed to remain indefinitely on the same side of the bridge. Let us discuss impulsivity. Impulsivity is, quite simply, emotion without any intelligent friction. It is the raw, instinctual response, the knee-jerk reaction, the "I do not want to think, I just want immediate relief" moment. In a world saturated with the insidious allure of instant gratification, this becomes a major, omnipresent trap. An individual who prioritizes immediate relief faster than they prioritize lasting results will, regrettably, never sustain the necessary discipline long enough to truly win, to truly flourish. Genuine victory, profound personal liberty, unequivocally requires delayed gratification. It requires the conscious, often difficult, choice of what you want most, your long-term vision, over what you want now, your immediate comfort or desire. This is not easy, but it is, with every fiber of your being, profoundly worth it. Now, consider the opposite scenario. Emotions that actively stop action, rather than provoke it. Fear, corrosive doubt, nagging insecurity, and pervasive uncertainty often paralyze people before they even have the chance to begin. They do not fail because the task itself is impossible. They fail because they never, ever start. They patiently wait for the elusive feeling of confidence to appear asterisked before they take action, when, in reality, confidence is almost always the hard-won reward for action already taken. Action generates tangible evidence. Evidence, in turn, builds profound belief. And belief, with unstoppable force, fuels further action. That vital, virtuous cycle cannot even begin if raw emotion is permitted to block the critical first step. This is precisely why controlling the friction between emotion and action matters so immensely. It creates the necessary internal space, the personal liberty, to move forward anyway, regardless of how you initially feel. Another powerful, life-altering shift is to deliberately view emotions as valuable signals, not as unquestionable commands. Instead of blindly obeying the paralyzing grip of fear, you consciously examine it, dissect it. Instead of impulsively lashing out in frustration, you calmly analyze its root cause. Instead of succumbing to the inertia of resistance, you courageously question it. Ask yourself, with genuine curiosity, why do I feel this? What is this emotion genuinely trying to protect or communicate? Does this emotion move me toward or away from my most important goals? When you engage in this process of asking questions, you actively engage and activate your thinking, reasoning brain, the prefrontal cortex. When you blindly obey impulses, you activate your primal, reactive survival brain. Leveling up your life demands far more strategic thought and conscious intention than mere survival. There is also the often underrated matter of emotional neutrality. You do not, let me repeat, need to feel absolutely amazing or overwhelmingly inspired to do what truly matters. You simply need to be willing. Neutrality is a profoundly underrated superpower. Some days, the greatest victory is not performing at your absolute peak, at your very best. The greatest victory is simply showing up at all, regardless of internal or external conditions. That, precisely, is how genuine, unshakable consistency is meticulously built, not through sporadic bursts of intense, unsustainable effort, but through repeated, neutral actions on countless ordinary days. Here is the profoundly empowering part. The more consistently you practice controlling this vital friction, the easier and more automatic it becomes. Emotional resistance, like an unused muscle, gradually weakens. Your action muscles, conversely, strengthen with every courageous rep. And, most importantly, your internal self-trust, that invaluable currency of personal empowerment, grows exponentially. Self-trust is one of the greatest, most enduring rewards of mastering this internal space. When you repeatedly prove to yourself, through consistent action, that you can move forward despite how you feel, you become formidable in the best possible way. You stop fearing challenges. You stop needing external permission or validation. You stop negotiating with the insidious voice of procrastination. You become someone who can reliably move, someone who can consistently execute, someone who, with quiet certainty, can win. Emotions are not, in themselves, the enemy. Acting impulsively because of them is the enemy. Avoiding essential action because of them is the enemy. Leveling up requires profound emotional maturity, not emotional silence or suppression. When you actively control the friction between emotion and action, you gain the ultimate ability to consciously steer your life in the direction you choose, not the arbitrary direction your fleeting moods or reactive impulses dictate. That is a level of personal power, of genuine self-liberty, that most people never reach. Not because it is impossible, but because it demands diligent practice. And practice, as it always has and always will, remains the unshakable road to mastery. Chapter 7. Reclaim your time from people and distractions. Time. It is, without question, the most valuable and non-renewable asset you will ever possess. Yet, tragically, most people lose control of it long before they even realize it is quietly slipping away. They do not lose it to dramatic catastrophes or sudden emergencies. They lose it, instead, in a myriad of small, unnoticed leaks. They lose it to the relentless expectations of other people, to an endless parade of meaningless obligations, to the pervasive digital noise that permeates our modern world, to conversations that go nowhere and deplete rather than enrich, to entertainment that numbs the spirit instead of nourishing it, and to a constant barrage of distractions that feel utterly harmless in the moment, but quietly, insidiously, steal entire years of their lives. If your sincere desire is to truly level up your life, to reclaim your personal sovereignty, you must aggressively reclaim your time. You must consciously take it back from all the things and all the people that are not authentically aligned with your chosen future. You simply cannot hope to transform your life on the meager crumbs of leftover hours. Time leaks, fundamentally, because most individuals mistakenly treat it as if it were an abundant, limitless resource, while simultaneously acting as if their most important goals are rare and perpetually distant. They operate under the unconscious assumption that there will always be more hours, more days, more seasons, more chances, more opportunities. Then, one day, they awaken to the chilling realization that the precious time they thought they had in reserve has already been irrevocably spent. Spent, often, on things that ultimately did not matter, and on people who, in retrospect, did not genuinely care about their highest good. An acute awareness of time is not about inducing panic or anxiety. It is profoundly about cultivating intention. It is about recognizing time for what it truly is, finite, non-renewable resource, then acting accordingly with deliberate purpose and respect. One of the foundational steps to effectively reclaiming your time is to master the art of saying no, not as a reflexive rejection, but as a sophisticated filtering mechanism. Every yes you utter is an implicit commitment of your finite time, your precious energy, and your invaluable attention. When you indiscriminately say yes to everything and everyone, you inevitably end up living a life that is predominantly shaped by other people's priorities, other people's agendas, other people's needs. You become a passive passenger in your own unique story, relinquishing your personal liberty. Saying no is not a selfish act. It is, in fact, a deeply strategic one. It proactively protects what genuinely matters most to you. It safeguards your future vision, and it preserves the finite energy that is absolutely required to build something truly meaningful, something of enduring value. Another relentless thief of time in our modern era is digital distraction. Contemporary technology has, with uncanny precision, mastered the insidious art of stealing our most valuable commodity, attention. And attention, let us be clear, is the very doorway through which precious time escapes. Endless scrolling, mindlessly consuming digital content, does not merely waste countless hours. It subtly rewires your brain's reward system, conditioning it to crave novelty instead of genuine progress, fleeting dopamine hits instead of deep fulfillment, and superficial stimulation instead of profound growth. But here is the even greater, more subtle danger. Distraction feels harmless. It feels justified. It feels like just a few minutes. But those seemingly insignificant minutes relentlessly accumulate into hours, and those hours, with terrifying speed, accumulate into years. And those years, my friend, become the profound difference between a life meticulously built with conscious intention and a life tragically consumed in perpetual reaction. Reclaiming your time, therefore, unequivocally requires reclaiming your most valuable asset, your attention. Then there is the often uncomfortable time trap of other people. This is not to say that people, in general, are inherently bad or detrimental. It means, rather, that not all people or all relationships are conducive to your highest and best use of time. Some relationships, the truly valuable ones, actively feed your growth, your ambition, your spirit. Some conversations expand your thinking, challenge your perspectives, and ignite your creativity. Others, conversely, drain your energy, shrink your perspective, and leave you feeling depleted. Some people courageously challenge you to rise, to push beyond your perceived limits. Others, with a subtle yet powerful pull, encourage you to stay exactly as you are, comfortable but stagnant. And then there are those who do not necessarily cause overt harm. They simply waste you. They waste your time with endless drama, with petty gossip, with laziness, thinly disguised as leisure, with problems they genuinely do not want to solve, only to endlessly discuss. You can, and should, care deeply about people without sacrificing your entire life's trajectory, your personal liberty, to their demands or their inertia. To effectively reclaim your time, you must diligently upgrade your boundaries. Boundaries are your explicit declaration to both the world and yourself. My life possesses a clear, intentional direction, and I will not abandon that direction casually, thoughtlessly, or without profound cause. Without robust boundaries, your time becomes an open invitation, up for grabs. Anyone can take it. Any fleeting distraction can claim it. Any sudden demand can, without resistance, rearrange your meticulously planned day. With firm, clear boundaries, your time becomes structured, protected, and intentionally utilized. And intentional time is, without exception, productive time, not just in terms of quantifiable work output, but in terms of life itself. Time for restorative rest, time for deep learning, time for profound recovery, time for expansive thinking, time for creative building. These are all, in their essence, forms of profoundly productive use of your finite hours. Another vital aspect of reclaiming your time is cultivating an acute understanding of leverage. Leverage, in this context, means recognizing that not all hours are created equal. Some hours, strategically invested, can propel you forward dramatically, creating exponential returns over time. Others, squandered or misspent, barely move you at all. When you deliberately spend a high-leverage hour learning a new skill, meticulously planning a strategic move, engaging in deep creative work, or building a valuable system, you gain returns that consistently compound over time, freeing up future hours. When you, conversely, spend low-leverage hours reacting to trivialities, passively consuming meaningless content, or escaping into distraction, you gain absolutely nothing, and, more often than not, you actively lose precious momentum. The key, therefore, is to consciously shift more and more of your life toward high-leverage activities. Regularly ask yourself, is this activity, right now, genuinely moving me forward, or is it merely filling space, occupying time without adding value? Now, let us address an uncomfortable, yet crucial, truth. You cannot authentically reclaim your time without directly confronting your own underlying avoidance patterns. Sometimes, individuals do not lose time because others aggressively take it. They lose it because giving it away, passively allowing it to be consumed, is subtly easier than confronting the often uncomfortable demands of growth. Avoidance, in its clever cunning, absolutely loves distraction. It thrives on useless busyness, on the illusion of productivity without actual progress. It adores social obligations that feel important, but, in reality, change absolutely nothing meaningful. Avoidance loves anything and everything that keeps you perpetually busy without making you genuinely better, stronger, or more free. When you courageously reclaim your time, you systematically remove these convenient hiding places. You strip away the easy excuses, and that, in its beautiful simplicity, forces progress. Reclaiming your time does not demand an unrealistic perfection. It demands, instead, unwavering awareness, clearly defined boundaries, conscious intention, and consistent, persistent repetition. When you begin to diligently practice this, you will notice something profoundly powerful unfold. Your life will become quieter, not boring, but profoundly quieter. And in that newfound quiet, crystalline clarity will begin to emerge. You will instinctively start noticing what genuinely matters and what, unequivocally, does not. You will shift from a perpetual state of reaction to an empowering mode of active building. You will transition from merely spending your life to thoughtfully investing it. You will stop drifting aimlessly and consciously begin living with purpose. Time is not something you merely manage. It is something you consciously allocate. It is something you spend with profound purpose, aligning it with your deepest values and your highest aspirations. Every hour you choose to spend is, in essence, a vote cast for the person you are actively becoming. Reclaim your time, and you reclaim your future. Reclaim your time, and you reclaim your freedom. Chapter 8. Rebuild your surroundings for success. Your environment is far more than just the physical space you inhabit. It is a powerful, silent sculptor of who you are. It relentlessly influences your habits, your prevailing mood, the standards you unconsciously adopt, the thoughts that dominate your mind, and the behaviors you exhibit, often far more profoundly than most people ever consciously realize. You can harbor the deepest desire to level up. You can voraciously read every self-improvement book. You can meticulously set ambitious goals and craft detailed plans. But if your immediate environment is subtly, yet powerfully, engineered for comfort, distraction, and stagnation, you will find yourself locked in a constant, exhausting battle against your very surroundings. And when you are forced to fight your environment, day in and day out, with depleting willpower, eventually, inevitably, the environment wins. Raw willpower, in the long run, is simply no match for a world meticulously designed to keep you average, to keep you predictable. That is precisely why true, lasting leveling up necessitates a conscious, deliberate environmental rebuild. Rebuilding your surroundings does not necessarily demand a drastic move to a new city or an expensive, full-scale redesign of your home, although, for some, those significant changes are indeed vital. What it fundamentally means is intentionally shaping the spaces where you spend the most significant portions of your time, so that these spaces actively support and nurture the person you are actively becoming, rather than passively reinforcing the person you have been. Every environment exerts a palpable pull. Some environments pull you powerfully forward, propelling you toward growth and expansion. Others pull you sideways, keeping you busy with motion, but no true direction. And some environments, insidiously, pull you backward, anchoring you to your past limitations. The critical question to ask yourself is, which direction is my environment currently pulling me? Let us begin with your most immediate environment, your physical space. Take a moment to look around the places where you spend the majority of your time, your desk, your bedroom, your kitchen, your living room. Are these spaces intrinsically built for deep focus or for effortless escape? Do they subtly encourage continuous learning and creation, or do they primarily facilitate passive distraction? Do they make it incredibly easy to take proactive action, or do they, by their very design, make it effortlessly easy to avoid action altogether? A cluttered environment, visually and energetically, relentlessly reinforces mental noise and internal chaos. A chaotic physical environment often leads to chaotic, disorganized behavior. A passive, uninspiring environment, conversely, reinforces passive, unmotivated habits. Even small, seemingly insignificant adjustments can make a profound difference. A book strategically placed within easy reach makes the act of reading feel easier, more accessible. A clean, organized desk makes the arduous task of focused work feel less daunting, more inviting. A pre-packed gym bag, ready by the door, removes a layer of friction, making consistent training feel less like a monumental decision and more like an automatic next step. Your brain, in its efficiency, instinctively seeks the path of least resistance. Therefore, intelligently engineer your surroundings so that the path of least resistance is precisely the one that leads directly to your desired progress. The concept of environment extends far beyond mere physical space. There is also your digital environment, an increasingly dominant force in modern life. In today's interconnected world, your digital environment often wields more influence over you than your physical surroundings. Your smartphone is, in essence, a portable environment, always with you. Your various apps are specialized environments. Your constant notifications are insidious microenvironments, each designed to capture and hold your attention. And let us be brutally honest, most of these digital environments are emphatically not designed to help you win, to help you level up, to help you achieve personal liberty. They are meticulously engineered, instead, to capture your attention and to monetize your distraction, often at the expense of your focus and well-being. Rebuilding your digital environment means curating, with fierce intentionality, what you allow yourself to see and experience, and ruthlessly removing what consistently pulls you off track. Unfollow the accounts and individuals that consistently drain your energy and foster negativity. Silence the notifications that constantly agitate your nervous system and hijack your focus. Delete the apps that passively waste your most precious resource. Subscribe, instead, to content and communities that actively strengthen your mind, uplift your spirit, and propel your growth. A single, thoughtful digital adjustment can buy you back hours of invaluable mental bandwidth and decision-making energy. Then there is the social environment, perhaps the most powerful and often underestimated environment of all. People, as we know, are profoundly contagious. It is not just their moods that spread, it is also their expectations, their tolerances for mediocrity, their ambitions, or lack thereof, their fears, their excuses, their underlying beliefs, and their unspoken standards. Spend enough consistent time with people who normalize complaining, and almost imperceptibly, complaining will begin to feel natural and justifiable to you. Spend enough consistent time with people who normalize diligent discipline, continuous learning, and courageous action, and, just as powerfully, those elevated behaviors will begin to feel natural, even expected. Most people, tragically, do not rise to the ambitious level of their goals. They, instead, settle to the comfortable, familiar level of their immediate surroundings. If you consistently find yourself being the most driven, the most ambitious, the most growth-oriented person in your immediate environment, it is a clear, unmistakable sign. Your environment is actively holding you back. This does not mean you need to ruthlessly cut out everyone who is not overtly ambitious or on the same path as you. It means you must become profoundly intentional about who influences you most, who you allow closest to your inner circle. You can genuinely care about people without allowing them to dictate or constrain your life's trajectory. You can love people without permitting them to lower your essential standards for personal excellence. Rebuilding your social environment means intelligently reassigning influence, not necessarily brutally removing relationships altogether. Who you allow closest to you, who you grant the most access to your mind and energy, is a critical environmental choice, and that choice, like compound interest, accumulates profoundly over time. There is also the subtle, yet powerful, habit environment. The myriad environmental cues systematically trigger specific behaviors. You are not merely a creature of pure intention. You are, perhaps even more powerfully, a creature of cues and associations. You instinctively associate certain physical places with specific actions. The comfortable couch cues relaxation, perhaps passive entertainment. The bed cues sleep. The kitchen often cues eating. But here is the liberating secret. You can consciously reassign these cues. You can designate specific spaces for focused work, distinct spaces for immersive learning, dedicated spaces for physical training, and separate, sacred spaces for true rest and rejuvenation. When you consistently implement this practice, the environment itself begins to do a significant portion of the discipline for you. Suddenly, you do not need to constantly convince yourself to work. You simply need to enter the designated space where working, by design, naturally happens. That, my friend, is a profound environmental win, a true act of self-liberation. Sometimes, the act of leveling up your environment can feel profoundly uncomfortable, precisely because it requires the deliberate removal of things that once made life feel easy, predictable, and low effort. Comfort is not always the enemy. Unearned comfort, however, often is. And unearned comfort is frequently built directly into an environment that, by its very nature, expects nothing extraordinary from you. When you courageously rebuild your surroundings, you intelligently introduce productive friction in the right places. For instance, if your goal is to reduce binge watching, do not leave those tempting streaming apps prominently displayed on your home screen. If you aim to stop mindless snacking, do not keep those tempting snacks readily available and visible in your pantry. If your aspiration is to write more, keep your writing tools, your notebook, your pen, your dedicated writing software, visible and easily accessible. If you want to train more consistently, make training the simplest, most friction-free available option. Design, my friend, consistently beats raw willpower every single time. This chapter serves as a potent reminder that your environment is constantly, inexorably, either reinforcing your desired future or reinforcing your entrenched past. You simply cannot become the highest, most actualized version of yourself while continuing to reside, to operate, to exist within an environment that was meticulously built for the lowest, most limited version of you. The environment you passively tolerate eventually becomes the life you actively live. If your environment, by its very nature, demands nothing exceptional from you, then do not, with any rational expectation, anticipate excellence from yourself. If, however, your thoughtfully designed environment actively demands growth, challenges, and high standards, then growth itself will, with predictable certainty, become your default mode, your natural state of being. Rebuild your surroundings for success. Make your environment a powerful, daily reflection of your future self, not a lingering monument to your past history. When your surroundings actively support and encourage who you are becoming, your personal transformation accelerates dramatically, not by brute force, but by elegant, intelligent design, leading to profound personal liberty. Chapter 9. Develop a winning mindset, growth, belief, and focus. A winning mindset is, without doubt, one of the most transformative and powerful tools you can possess on your journey to level up your life. Your mindset is the fundamental lens through which you perceive and approach every challenge, every setback, and every opportunity that life presents. It directly and profoundly impacts your success, your happiness, and your overall fulfillment. A winning mindset is not merely about thinking positively in a superficial way. It is about adopting a deep, ingrained perspective that consistently fuels your growth, fortifies your resilience, and propels you toward the relentless pursuit of excellence. It is about consciously choosing to view obstacles not as insurmountable barriers, but as invaluable opportunities to learn, adapt, and evolve. It is about cultivating an unshakable inner belief that you possess the inherent capacity to achieve your most cherished goals, regardless of the challenges you inevitably face. At the very core of a winning mindset lies the powerful concept of a growth mindset, eloquently introduced by Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck. A growth mindset is the profound belief that your fundamental abilities, your intelligence, and your inherent talents are not fixed or immutable. Instead, they can be continuously developed, expanded, and strengthened through unwavering dedication, persistent hard work, and, crucially, by learning valuable lessons from every failure and setback. Individuals who cultivate a growth mindset instinctively view challenges as exciting opportunities for learning and expansion. They wholeheartedly embrace effort, understanding it as the direct pathway to mastery. They persist with remarkable tenacity through difficulties, and they possess an unwavering belief that genuine success springs directly from continuous growth and relentless self-improvement. On the contrasting side, a fixed mindset is characterized by the belief that your abilities are static, unchangeable, and predetermined. Those trapped in a fixed mindset tend to avoid challenges, fearing they might expose their perceived limitations. They give up easily when faced with difficulty, and they are often profoundly discouraged by setbacks, interpreting them as definitive proof of their inherent inadequacy. The very first, and most crucial, step in developing a powerful winning mindset is to consciously and deliberately shift from a fixed mindset to an expansive growth mindset. This pivotal shift is absolutely essential because it empowers you to bravely take on new challenges without the paralyzing fear of failure. When you genuinely believe that your abilities can be developed, you become far more willing to take calculated risks, to experiment, and to fearlessly try new things. The key in this transformation is to shift your focus from solely fixating on the outcome to deeply valuing and engaging with the process of learning and improvement. Even if you do not succeed at your first attempt, a growth mindset enables you to view each and every experience as a vital stepping stone toward continuous improvement and eventual mastery. One individual who profoundly exemplified a winning mindset, even in the most extreme circumstances, was Nelson Mandela. Despite being unjustly imprisoned for 27 agonizing years for his unwavering fight against apartheid, Mandela never, for a single moment, relinquished his vision for a free, equitable, and democratic South Africa. Even during the darkest, most desolate times of his incarceration, Mandela maintained an unyielding belief in the transformative power of forgiveness, the inherent value of equality, and the ultimate triumph of justice. His extraordinary resilience and unwavering commitment to his noble cause demonstrated an almost superhuman belief in himself and the potential for profound, positive societal change. Mandela's indomitable mindset, even in the face of unimaginable hardship and oppression, inspired millions across the globe and played an instrumental role in leading South Africa to its peaceful transition from apartheid to a vibrant democracy. Another absolutely essential element of a winning mindset is cultivating unshakable self-belief. Without this foundational self-belief, it becomes incredibly difficult to sustain motivation, to endure through prolonged challenges, or to fully actualize your potential. Self-belief is not about harboring a deluded sense of perfection or invincibility. It is, instead, about trusting in your inherent ability to overcome obstacles, to learn valuable lessons from your inevitable mistakes, and to consistently keep moving forward, regardless of external circumstances. It is the quiet, internal confidence that, even when things become incredibly tough, you possess the inner strength, the resilience, and the sheer determination to persist and prevail. One of the most effective ways to construct this profound self-belief is by consciously focusing on your past successes, however small they may seem. Take a deliberate moment to reflect on the times when you faced adversity, when you were tested, and yet emerged stronger, wiser, and more capable on the other side. These moments serve as powerful internal reminders that you are indeed capable of handling whatever challenges the future may present. Focus is yet another crucial element of a winning mindset. In today's hyper-connected, information-saturated world, we are constantly bombarded with an overwhelming array of distractions. Whether it is the relentless pull of social media notifications, the unending stream of emails, or simply the overwhelming noise and demands of modern life, staying intensely focused on your most important goals is more challenging than ever before. However, a winning mindset demands that you vigorously prioritize your goals, stay steadfastly committed to your overarching vision, and ruthlessly block out any distractions that do not actively serve your higher purpose. When you intentionally focus your finite time and energy on what truly matters, you maximize your effectiveness, ensuring that every effort you expend brings you demonstrably closer to your desired outcome, to your personal liberty. One individual who epitomized this laser-like focus was Steve Jobs. Jobs was renowned for his relentless pursuit of perfection and his almost obsessive focus on creating groundbreaking, innovative products that possessed the potential to fundamentally change the world. His extraordinary ability to focus intently on the grand vision, while simultaneously paying meticulous attention to the smallest, most intricate details, allowed Apple to repeatedly revolutionize entire industries and redefine technology. Jobs refused to be distracted by external pressures, by fleeting trends, or by the opinions of others. He remained steadfastly focused on his singular vision, and his unparalleled success was a direct result of that unwavering, almost fierce, commitment. A winning mindset also fundamentally requires emotional resilience. Life, as we all know, is a dynamic tapestry, woven with both profound ups and challenging downs. How you intelligently handle these emotional highs and lows can often be the decisive factor in determining your ultimate success or your prolonged stagnation. Resilience, in this context, means maintaining a calm, clear-headed demeanor under intense pressure, diligently learning to manage and mitigate stress, and refusing to allow temporary setbacks to derail your long-term progress. Instead of permitting raw emotions to impulsively dictate your actions, emotionally resilient individuals maintain conscious control over their thoughts and their reactive impulses. They view obstacles as temporary detours, not permanent roadblocks, and they possess the deep understanding that challenges are, in essence, simply disguised opportunities for profound growth and expansion. Finally, cultivating a powerful winning mindset inherently involves meticulously surrounding yourself with positivity. The individuals you choose to spend your most valuable time with exert a profound and often unconscious influence on your mindset and your emotional state. Therefore, it is absolutely critical to use your inner circle wisely, with discernment and intention. Surround yourself with people who genuinely believe in your potential, who courageously challenge you to become better, and who offer unwavering support and encouragement during difficult times. Negative influences, like insidious clouds, can quickly obscure your judgment and drain your precious energy. Positive influences, conversely, will consistently lift you up, inspire you to reach higher, and encourage you to keep striving for excellence and lasting success, to claim your personal liberty. A winning mindset is, without question, utterly essential for authentically leveling up your life. It is the unshakable foundation upon which all success, all resilience, and all continuous growth is built. By consciously adopting an expansive growth mindset, by cultivating an unshakable belief in your own vast potential, by staying intensely focused on your most important goals, and by diligently building emotional resilience, you can effectively overcome any challenge that comes your way. Remember this profound truth: your mindset shapes your reality. By consciously choosing to embrace a winning mindset, you empower yourself to unlock your full potential and achieve the profound, lasting success you deeply desire and truly deserve. Chapter 10. Acquire skills that pay you for life. At a pivotal point in your transformative journey to level up, the initial surge of motivation will inevitably matter less, and the steadfast acquisition of valuable skill will matter profoundly more. Skills are the ultimate form of leverage. Skills forge unwavering confidence. Skills create an abundance of options. Skills directly generate income. Skills provide personal mobility. Skills cultivate profound independence. And skills, perhaps most crucially, create long-term durability and resilience in a world that is characterized by relentless, accelerating change. If your ambition is to truly transform your life in a lasting, meaningful way, you must make the strategic commitment to acquire skills that will continue to pay you dividends for the entirety of your life. These are skills that compound their value over time, that travel with you regardless of circumstances, and that consistently deliver immense value long after fleeting trends fade and external circumstances dramatically shift. Many people, in their earnest pursuit of a better life, mistakenly focus on vague, aspirational goals, such as be successful, or make more money, or become fulfilled. But goals, no matter how noble, when untethered from the concrete reality of skill, remain mere wishes, fleeting fantasies. Skill is the indispensable bridge that spans the gap between a heartfelt intention and a tangible, real-world outcome. Skill takes abstract ideas and, through deliberate effort, transforms them into executable reality. Skill makes you profoundly valuable in any context, and genuine value is, without exception, richly rewarded in every economy, in every era, in every corner of the world. This is precisely why authentic transformation demands a fundamental shift from passive consumption to active, intentional acquisition. You must consciously transition from being merely a dreamer to becoming an indefatigable learner, an active builder of your own capabilities. A common, yet critical, mistake many individuals make is assuming that skill acquisition is a finite process that conveniently ends after formal schooling or early adulthood. But the profound truth is this: while formal schooling teaches you the mechanics of how to learn, the unfolding journey of your life itself teaches you what to learn. And in adulthood, the skills that possess the greatest leverage, the most enduring value, are rarely, if ever, taught in conventional academic settings. We are speaking here of foundational, meta skills such as exceptional communication, unwavering resilience, masterful persuasion, profound creativity, astute problem-solving, fluid adaptability, intelligent emotional management, decisive decision-making, impactful leadership, and incisive strategic thinking. These are not merely specialized skills relevant to a niche profession. They are, instead, universal foundational skills that amplify the effectiveness of everything you touch. They relentlessly raise your ceiling of capability. They powerfully multiply your inherent potential, granting you immense personal liberty. Now, let us explore specialized skills, those highly focused abilities that create distinct leverage within a specific domain or industry. In today's rapidly evolving world, specialized skills might encompass areas like advanced coding, elegant design, sophisticated digital marketing, persuasive sales, captivating public speaking, compelling copywriting, effective teaching, astute negotiation, rigorous data analysis, inspiring team, leadership, robust system building, or a profound understanding of complex finance. These are the types of skills that can generate significant value on demand, allowing you to create impact and income with unparalleled autonomy. The more profound and diverse value you can consistently generate, the more control you naturally gain over your precious time, your most exciting opportunities, and your financial independence. You are no longer dependent on the vagaries of luck or the whims of external circumstances. You are no longer passively waiting for a big break. You, through your cultivated skills, become the break. Skill acquisition also profoundly alters how you perceive and value yourself. When you diligently build valuable skills, you simultaneously build undeniable evidence of your competence and capability. And that accumulated evidence, in turn, meticulously builds self-belief. Many individuals grapple with low self-esteem, not because they inherently lack worth, but often because they lack demonstrable proof of their capabilities. Skill provides that irrefutable proof. When you genuinely know you can consistently deliver value, when you know you can effectively solve complex problems, when you know you can reliably create desired results, you cease questioning whether you are inherently capable. You stop reflexively apologizing for aspiring to more. You stop consciously or unconsciously shrinking yourself to fit into environments that are far too small for your burgeoning potential. Another crucial truth about skills is that they compound. The very first skill you commit to acquiring is almost always the most challenging, precisely because it initiates a fundamental upgrade in your identity, a shift from a passive consumer to an active, empowered agent. But once you genuinely learn how to learn effectively, each subsequent new skill becomes progressively easier to acquire and integrate, because the underlying process of learning becomes familiar, optimized. Skills also possess a remarkable ability to stack together in unexpected, synergistic ways, creating a whole that is far greater than the sum of its parts. For instance, exceptional communication combined with insightful leadership and unwavering patience often equals profound influence. Elegant design merged with keen psychological insight and compelling storytelling can create an unassailable brand power. Advanced coding combined with radical creativity and strategic marketing can launch a scalable, impactful business. Skills, in this powerful sense, do not just add, they multiply, exponentially expanding your personal liberty. This brings us to another foundational principle. Invest deeply in skills before you fixate solely on outcomes. Outcomes, by their very nature, are often transient and can fade. Skills, however, endure. You might lose a job, but you retain your invaluable ability to create value elsewhere. You might lose a business, but you retain your hard-won ability to conceive and construct another. You might experience financial loss, but you always retain the underlying skill, the core competence, that earned that wealth in the first place. The world we inhabit is inherently unpredictable, volatile, and uncertain. Skill, however, provides you with an internal, robust stability within that unpredictability. It is the closest thing to genuine insurance for your future, a safeguard for your personal liberty. But let us be clear, skill acquisition is never a passive endeavor. It rigorously demands deliberate practice. It requires immense patience, especially in the early, clumsy stages. It necessitates profound humility, the willingness to embrace the beginner's mind. And it demands consistent, repetitive effort. You must be unequivocally willing to be bad, to be clumsy, to be awkward before you can ever hope to become good. And you must be willing to be merely good before you can even aspire to become exceptional. Many people, sadly, never acquire truly valuable skills because they fear the uncomfortable, vulnerable beginner stage. They dread the prospect of looking inexperienced. They fear the uncomfortable feeling of temporary incompetence. But remember this profound truth: every single master, in every field, was once embarrassed by their initial, crude attempts. The crucial difference is that they simply kept going. They persisted. To truly build skills that will serve you for life, you must also diligently construct a powerful learning strategy. This means consciously choosing what matters most to acquire. Not all skills are created equal in terms of their long-term return on investment. Some skills offer a one-time payout. Others, the truly valuable ones, pay dividends forever. Some skills are narrowly useful only in specific contexts. Others, the foundational ones, transfer seamlessly to every domain of your life. The key is to prioritize the skills that most powerfully align with your chosen future identity and the expansive life you are meticulously building. Regularly ask yourself, what single skill, if I truly mastered it, would make everything else in my life easier, more effective, or more impactful? That question, posed with genuine curiosity, will invariably point you toward the areas of greatest leverage and personal freedom. Lastly, never forget this empowering truth: skill, above all, creates profound freedom. The more diverse and potent skills you possess, the less you are dependent on favorable external circumstances. The more skill you accumulate, the more your life responds to your intentional influence, rather than passively controlling you. Skill is one of the greatest, most enduring gifts you can bestow upon your future self because its value compounds exponentially across decades, across an entire lifetime. When you consciously acquire skills that truly pay you for life, you cease merely hoping your life will magically get better. You gain the undeniable, internal ability to make it better, to architect it with intention. And that, my friend, is the authentic beginning of real, lasting, personal transformation and profound liberty. Chapter 11. Use discipline to carry you when desire will not. There comes an inevitable point in every significant transformation, every pursuit of personal liberty, where the initial fervor of desire begins to fade. In the incandescent glow of the beginning, desire is loud, exhilarating, and undeniably potent. It fuels your enthusiasm, excites your imagination, and powerfully pushes you into motion. Of what desire, by its very nature, is a temporary, ephemeral state. It peaks quickly, often like a flash in the pan, and just as swiftly disappears. If you, in your quest to level up, rely solely on the capricious winds of desire, your life will, with predictable certainty, be defined by short, intense bursts of effort, invariably followed by long, frustrating periods of stagnation. This is the default, cyclical pattern for the vast majority of people. They start with a surge of energy, they fade with the passage of time, and they inevitably retreat back into the comfortable, familiar confines of their old patterns. If your sincere aspiration is to level up in a truly meaningful, lasting way, to forge an enduring personal freedom, you must learn to rely on something far stronger, far more resilient, than mere desire. You must learn to rely on the unwavering power of discipline. Discipline, contrary to common misconception, is not about harsh punishment, rigid austerity, or self-inflicted suffering. Discipline is, at its core, the quiet, consistent ability to do what truly matters, to take the necessary action, even, especially, when you unequivocally do not feel like it. It is the profound capacity to act in unwavering alignment with your chosen future self, rather than capitulating to the fleeting demands of your current mood or emotional state. It is the resolute, non-negotiable refusal to engage in internal bargaining or to rationalize debilitating excuses. Discipline is, simply put, consistency executed under less than ideal emotional conditions. And that subtle, yet critical, distinction is precisely what makes all the difference, because genuine success is rarely, if ever, constructed under ideal emotional conditions. True, lasting success is meticulously built on ordinary days, on tired days, on distracted days, on stressful days, on days when you feel utterly unmotivated, on days when the world seems to conspire against you. Anyone can perform admirably when everything feels effortlessly easy, when the wind is at their back, when inspiration flows. The profound difference between an average existence and an exceptional one lies in how you perform when everything feels undeniably hard, when the internal resistance is at its peak, when the external circumstances are challenging. There is a widespread misconception that truly disciplined people inherently love discipline. They do not. What they profoundly love is the outcome the discipline consistently produces, not necessarily the arduous effort required. They love the unshakable confidence that consistent, disciplined action meticulously builds. They cherish the inherent dignity of keeping promises to themselves, of acting in accordance with their highest values. They love the profound inner knowing that they can unequivocally rely on their own word, their own commitment, regardless of their transient feelings. Discipline, therefore, is not primarily about enjoying the action itself. It is, first and foremost, about deeply valuing the inevitable, powerful result. Once you grasp and internalize that fundamental distinction, the pervasive emotional friction that often accompanies disciplined action becomes significantly easier to navigate and overcome. Discipline also fundamentally transforms your relationship with discomfort. Most people, by instinct and ingrained pattern, automatically move away from discomfort, seeking the path of least resistance. Discipline, however, consciously and intentionally moves toward it, not because discomfort is inherently pleasant, but because discomfort is the reliable signal, actively pushing beyond your current capacity, stretching the boundaries of your comfort zone. Growth, by its very nature, demands friction. Without friction, there can be no genuine expansion, no profound evolution. Think of a muscle. It must be deliberately stressed, challenged, and fatigued to grow stronger. The exact same principle applies to your identity, your skills, your confidence, and your overall capacity for personal liberty. Discipline is the precise mechanism, the internal engineering, that intelligently applies that necessary stress in a controlled, consistent, and ultimately beneficial way. Another vital truth: discipline powerfully reduces decision fatigue. When you make the conscious decision, in advance, what you will do, precisely when you will do it, and, crucially, why it profoundly matters to your long-term vision, you effectively remove the debilitating need for emotional negotiation in the moment of action. You intelligently relocate the decision-making process out of the volatile moment where your transient feelings are strongest and your long-term standards are often weakest. For example, by deciding to engage in your physical training at the same exact time every single day, you eliminate the exhausting internal debate of "should I work out today?" The answer is predecided, predetermined. The established routine, the discipline framework, handles it for you. Discipline thrives on intelligent pre-commitment. This brings us to an absolutely essential framework for leveling up: action before emotion. The vast majority of people patiently wait for the right emotional state, for inspiration, for motivation, for a feeling of readiness, before they will take action. But emotion, as we have established, is profoundly unreliable, a fickle muse. If you consistently wait for motivation to strike, you will, almost without exception, always be late to your own potential. Discipline individuals, conversely, courageously, do the action first, and then allow the emotion, the motivation, to catch up. And, more often than not, it does. Action, in its powerful simplicity, creates clarity. Action creates unstoppable momentum. Action, in turn, often creates the very motion you were initially waiting for. You feel motivated after you start, not before. That profound inversion of the traditional sequence, action leading to emotion, rather than emotion leading to action, is precisely what changes lives, what unlocks profound personal liberty. Another significant benefit of cultivating discipline is that it meticulously builds authentic self-respect. Many people mistakenly believe that genuine confidence magically springs from external compliments or grand achievements. But true, unshakable confidence emanates directly from undeniable internal evidence. Evidence that you can unequivocally trust yourself to consistently do what you said you would do. When you repeatedly break promises to yourself, your self-respect quietly, subtly erodes, day by day. When you, conversely, consistently keep those promises to yourself, your self-respect compounds, growing stronger with each act of integrity. Confidence is not an innate personality trait you are born with. It is a meticulously earned behavioral result. Discipline is the primary currency through which you earn it. Let us discuss the intricate relationship between discipline and identity. A significant number of people attempt to change their habits without fundamentally changing their underlying identity. They try to forcefully impose new behaviors while still deeply believing, at a subconscious level, that they are someone who quits early, or someone who always procrastinates, or someone who lacks consistency. Discipline, through repeated action, powerfully challenges and ultimately reshapes that limiting belief. Every single repetition of disciplined behavior consistently reinforces a new, more empowering identity. I am someone who follows through. I am someone who keeps my word to myself. Once that new identity firmly forms, discipline becomes not an arduous struggle, but an organic expression. You no longer drag yourself into action with immense effort. You act because it is, quite simply, who you authentically are. But discipline also demands robust boundaries. Without clear, defined boundaries, everything in your life becomes optional. And optional actions, by their very nature, rarely, if ever, get done. Boundaries serve to protect your discipline from external interference and internal sabotage. They protect your precious time, your invaluable attention, your finite energy, and your crucial mental bandwidth. When you thoughtfully set and enforce boundaries, you are explicitly communicating to the world, and more importantly, to yourself, that your future, your personal liberty, matters enough to fiercely defend. Now, there is a pervasive temptation to relentlessly chase perfect discipline. But perfection, let us be clear, is both unrealistic and utterly unnecessary. The ultimate goal is not to perform flawlessly without a single misstep. The goal is to remain consistently in motion, to show up day after day, week after week. Consistency, my friend, is the ultimate force multiplier. If you consistently show up at 70% effort on days when you simply do not feel like it, you will, with undeniable certainty, outperform the individual who only shows up at 100% effort on the rare days when inspiration or motivation magically strikes. Discipline is about frequency, about showing up, not about theatrical, sporadic bursts of intensity. Finally, discipline bestows upon you something that fleeting desire never can: durability. Desire is a bright, captivating spark, a momentary ignition. Discipline is the relentless, powerful engine that sustains the journey. Desire initiates the journey. Discipline, with unwavering commitment, completes it. The expansive life you envision, the empowered future version of you, cannot be reached through occasional, powerful bursts of effort alone. It demands steadfastness. It requires unwavering commitment. It necessitates the consistent ability to execute, to move forward, independent of your mood, your feelings, or the external conditions. When you consciously choose to use discipline to carry you when desire inevitably wanes, you gain the profound power to finish what you start. And this, my friend, more than anything else, is what unequivocally separates authentic transformation from mere fantasy, from unfulfilled wishes. This is the path to lasting liberty. Chapter 12. Master the Art of Resilience. Resilience is arguably one of the most crucial and empowering traits you can develop on your journey to level up your life and claim your personal liberty. It is the profound ability to not merely bounce back from setbacks, but to spring forward with renewed vigor, to gracefully adapt to change, and to consistently keep going, with unwavering resolve, even when circumstances become undeniably tough. Life, in its inherent nature, is unpredictable, a tapestry woven with unexpected challenges and sudden shifts. We all, without exception, face difficulties, be they a crushing career setback, a profound personal loss, an unanticipated financial reversal, or an unforeseen change in health. The true key to enduring success, to genuine fulfillment, is not in attempting to avoid these inevitable challenges. It is, instead, in meticulously building the robust resilience required to face them head-on, to extract profound lessons from them, and, crucially, to emerge stronger, wiser, and more capable as a direct result. At its very core, resilience is a conscious choice about how you fundamentally respond to difficulties. It is not about possessing an immunity to failure or a shield against disappointment. Rather, it is about the deliberate choice to rise above adversity, to transcend the immediate pain, and to relentlessly keep moving forward. Resilient individuals possess an innate understanding that setbacks are not deviations from the path, but an integral, natural part of the journey. And instead of allowing these challenging moments to define their entire trajectory, they shrewdly utilize them as invaluable opportunities for profound growth. They view challenges not as debilitating obstacles, but as exciting opportunities to learn, to improve, to iterate, and to come back with even greater strength and wisdom. One of the foundational steps in cultivating unshakable resilience is a radical shift in your mindset regarding failure. So often, our society conditions us to associate failure with weakness, with defeat, with personal inadequacy. But truly resilient individuals grasp a deeper truth. Failure is not the definitive end of the road. It is merely a vital, instructive part of the arduous, yet ultimately rewarding, process of mastery. Every single failure, every misstep, is a lesson profoundly disguised, offering invaluable feedback on what worked, what did not, and what requires intelligent adjustment. When you consciously begin to perceive failure as a patient teacher, rather than a formidable adversary, it becomes exponentially easier to bounce back, to recalibrate, and to keep moving forward with renewed purpose. Consider the legendary example of Michael Jordan, widely regarded as one of the greatest basketball players of all time. Jordan's ascent to unparalleled success was, by no means, a smooth or effortless journey. He was famously cut, from his high school basketball team, a crushing blow that would have irrevocably broken the spirit of many young athletes. But instead of allowing this profound setback to define him or limit his potential, Jordan, with characteristic intensity, harnessed it as powerful motivation to work harder, to train with more ferocity, and to unequivocally prove his worth. His unyielding resilience, combined with an almost obsessive commitment to self-improvement, propelled him through countless hours of practice, countless missed shots, and countless defeats, ultimately transforming him into a six-time NBA champion, an icon of athletic prowess and personal liberty. Jordan's story powerfully illustrates that resilience is not about never failing. It is, unequivocally, about how you choose to respond, how you choose to rise, when things inevitably do not go according to your meticulously crafted plan. Another critical aspect of resilience is the profound ability to maintain focus on the bigger picture. It is incredibly easy to get consumed by the immediate moment, especially when circumstances are challenging and things are not going well. Resilient individuals, however, possess the wisdom and discipline to zoom out, to adopt a long-term perspective, and to maintain that broader view even amidst the storm. They understand, fundamentally, that temporary setbacks or short-term disappointments do not and cannot define their entire, expansive journey. They possess the mental fortitude to keep their eyes firmly fixed on their ultimate, overarching goals. This broader, long-term perspective empowers them to remain calm, composed, and strategically focused, even in the face of daunting adversity, preserving their inner liberty. Consider the remarkable story of Steve Jobs, the visionary co-founder of Apple. Jobs' resilience was put to its most extreme test when he was famously and humiliatingly fired from the very company he had helped bring into existence. For many, this would have been an utterly devastating, career-ending blow. But Jobs, with his characteristic tenacity, refused to be deterred. Instead of succumbing to despair, he channeled his prodigious energy into new, groundbreaking ventures, Next and Pixar, eventually making a triumphant return to Apple, and, against all odds, transforming it into one of the most valuable and innovative companies in the world. Jobs' unparalleled ability to bounce back from such a monumental professional setback, while steadfastly keeping his audacious vision intact, is a perfect, timeless example of the profound power of resilience. His journey serves as a potent reminder that setbacks are often merely detours, not dead ends, and with the right mindset, they can, paradoxically, lead to even greater, more unforeseen success. Resilience also intrinsically involves emotional regulation, sophisticated ability to intelligently manage your emotional landscape during intensely difficult times. Life, as we know, is a dynamic flux of exhilarating ups and challenging downs. How you intelligently handle your emotions during these tumultuous periods plays an absolutely crucial role in your capacity to remain resilient. Instead of passively allowing frustration, fear, anger, or despair to seize control, resilient individuals consciously strive to maintain a calm, composed, and clear-headed demeanor. This sophisticated emotional control empowers them to make clear, rational decisions and to navigate complex challenges with a profound sense of grace and strategic purpose. It is not about suppressing or denying your authentic feelings. It is, profoundly, about acknowledging them fully, learning valuable insights from their presence, and then, crucially, not allowing them to automatically dictate your subsequent actions. One of the most awe-inspiringly resilient individuals in modern history is Oprah Winfrey. Oprah endured an unimaginably challenging childhood, marked by profound poverty, systemic abuse, and numerous, crushing hardships. Yet, instead of allowing these immense obstacles to define her narrative or limit her potential, she, with incredible strength, harnessed her traumatic experiences as fuel for her extraordinary success. Through sheer, unyielding resilience, she ascended from those difficult, limiting circumstances to become one of the most influential, compassionate, and successful media personalities on the planet. Oprah's profound ability to navigate adversity, to maintain unwavering emotional strength, and to steadfastly focus on her long-term vision, even when everything seemed to conspire against her, helped her transform her pain into unparalleled power and embodiment of self-liberty. Finally, the continuous building of resilience unequivocally requires diligent care for your physical and mental health. It is simply impossible to consistently bounce back from crushing setbacks if you are perpetually physically and mentally drained, operating on fumes. Regular physical exercise, a balanced and nourishing diet, and consistent, high-quality sleep are absolutely essential for maintaining the energy, the mental clarity, and the emotional fortitude needed to stay resilient, to keep fighting. Mental health practices, such as mindfulness meditation, reflective journaling, cognitive behavioral techniques, or, when necessary, professional therapy, are equally vital components of a robust resilience strategy. When you consciously invest in your holistic well-being, you intrinsically strengthen your innate ability to effectively handle whatever challenges life inevitably throws your way, protecting your inner peace and freedom. Resilience is not some innate trait you are either born with or forever lack. It is a powerful, learnable skill that you can meticulously develop and strengthen over time through consistent practice and deliberate effort. By consciously changing your mindset around failure, by steadfastly maintaining a long-term perspective, by intelligently regulating your emotions, and by diligently taking care of your physical and mental health, you can build the unshakable resilience needed to overcome life's most formidable challenges. Resilience is not about avoiding hardship. It is profoundly about learning how to thrive despite it. When you truly master the art of resilience, you gain the extraordinary ability to navigate obstacles with unwavering confidence and to emerge stronger, wiser, and more liberated from every single setback. Chapter 13. Upgrade your circle to upgrade your ambition. The people you consistently surround yourself with exert an influence over your life that is far more profound and pervasive than you might consciously realize. They are the silent architects of your intellectual landscape, subtly affecting how you think, what you aspire to, what you are willing to tolerate, what you fundamentally believe is possible for yourself, and, crucially, how you respond when adversity inevitably strikes. Human beings are, by our very nature, social creatures. We are biologically wired to adapt to our immediate environment. We unconsciously match the tone, the behaviors, the standards, and the expectations of our social circles, often without even noticing the subtle shifts occurring within us. If your genuine desire is to level up your life, to break free from limitations and embrace personal liberty, you must make the strategic, intentional decision to upgrade the social circle around you. This is not about seeking better people to feel superior. It is about cultivating an environment that makes ambition, growth, and personal excellence feel entirely normal, rather than a rare, exceptional pursuit. Every individual possesses an internal social thermostat. This thermostat, largely set by your peer group, dictates the ambient temperature for your expectations. If your primary circle consistently harbors low expectations, it becomes remarkably easy for you to settle, to remain complacent. If, conversely, your circle consistently radiates high expectations, it becomes incredibly difficult, almost impossible, to remain average. This is precisely why certain groups, certain communities, consistently produce extraordinary growth and achievement. They do not merely encourage ambition, they intrinsically normalize it. When ambition is normalized, diligent effort transforms from being an exception, a heroic act, into a fundamental baseline expectation. And that, my friend, changes absolutely everything. Consider the stark contrast. A weak circle nurtures and excuses complacency, rationalizations, and inaction. A strong circle, however, rigorously nurtures and upholds high standards, accountability, and proactive effort. A weak circle readily accepts your self-justifying rationalizations, often comforting you in your stagnation. A strong circle, conversely, gently but firmly reminds you of your commitments, your potential, and your chosen future. A weak circle, through its gravitational pull, subtly pulls you back into the seductive embrace of comfort and familiarity. A strong circle, by its very nature, consistently pushes you toward greater capability, expanded capacity, and profound personal liberty. And here is the most revealing, often uncomfortable, part of this dynamic. You do not necessarily need an overtly toxic or destructive circle to remain stuck. A merely comfortable circle will keep you just as effectively stagnant, just as surely anchored to the status quo. Genuine growth requires a healthy degree of friction, constructive challenge, consistent encouragement, honest accountability, and a shared, palpable ambition. Comfort, almost invariably, rarely offers these vital ingredients for elevation. Now, upgrading your circle does not necessarily mean ruthlessly abandoning long-standing relationships or adopting a cold, calculating demeanor. It means, instead, becoming profoundly intentional and discerning about influence. You can, and should, love people deeply without allowing them to arbitrarily determine your trajectory, your life's path. You can remain fiercely loyal to relationships without sacrificing your highest potential to maintain them at all costs. The ultimate goal is not to eliminate people from your life indiscriminately. It is to intelligently rebalance your proximity to them, to calibrate the level of influence you permit. The individuals whom you allow closest to your inner world, those who occupy your most intimate mental and emotional space, should be those who actively support your chosen future, not those who passively reinforce your limiting past. When it comes to the impact on your growth, people generally fall into three distinct categories: those who pull you forward, those who pull you sideways, and those who, through their inertia or negativity, pull you backward. Those who consistently pull you forward are the ones who introduce you to new, expansive ideas, who model higher standards, who illuminate unforeseen possibilities, and who hold you to elevated expectations. They courageously challenge you to rise, to stretch, to become more. They hold you accountable to your highest self, and they unequivocally refuse to let you shrink or retreat when pressure inevitably hits. These are the mentors, the role models, the true friends. Those who pull you sideways, in contrast, keep you perpetually busy without genuinely moving you forward. You invest significant time and energy in these relationships, but you experience no true gain in progress or growth. The relationship itself is not necessarily harmful, but it is, by its very nature, not constructively expansive either. It is often characterized by shared comfort, shared distraction, or shared mediocrity. Then there are those who, subtly or overtly, pull you backward. They persistently reinforce old, limiting identities, perpetuate old, self-defeating behaviors, and echo old, familiar excuses. They make the arduous, exhilarating process of evolution feel unnecessary, or even unsettlingly uncomfortable. Most people, in their default state, spend the overwhelming majority of their time, their emotional energy, and their mental bandwidth with sideways and backward influences. Why? Because sideways and backward relationships are fundamentally easy. They demand no vulnerability, no courageous ambition, no uncomfortable self-reflection, and certainly no challenging growth. But crucially, easy comes at an immense cost. Easy costs opportunity. Easy costs momentum. Easy costs your deepest aspirations, your most profound personal liberty. The right people, the forward-pulling individuals, make growth feel not easy, but easier, more supported, more inevitable. The wrong people, the backward-pulling influences, make growth feel overwhelmingly difficult, often impossible. To effectively upgrade your circle, you must first diligently upgrade your criteria for connection. Ask yourself, with rigorous honesty, who are the people in my life who genuinely inspire me to think bigger, to dream more expansively? Who are the individuals who actively desire more out of their own lives and model that pursuit? Who are the people who consistently encourage authentic effort over convenient excuses? Who are the individuals who articulate possibilities instead of reiterating limitations? Who are the people who consistently demonstrate the behaviors I aspire to, rather than merely talking about them? These, precisely, are the types of individuals who will consistently elevate you. And do not overlook this crucial point. Sometimes, the truly transformative people you need for your next level are not currently present in your existing life. That is perfectly acceptable. You will inevitably meet new, aligned people as you courageously walk the path of becoming someone new. Growth, like a powerful magnet, attracts growth. Another vital component of upgrading your circle is the courageous act of removing deadweight expectations. People often remain trapped in a state of smallness because they harbor a deep-seated fear of how others will react to their expansion, to their personal growth. They fear judgment. They fear criticism. They fear being labeled as arrogant, selfish, or unrealistic. But here is the uncomfortable truth. The people who benefit most from you staying small are almost invariably not the people who will genuinely benefit from you becoming the magnificent, fully actualized individual you are truly capable of becoming. If your sincere growth genuinely threatens someone, that stark reaction says far more about their own insecurities and limitations than it does about your audacious ambitions. Upgrading your circle also demands that you proactively become someone genuinely worth connecting with, someone who adds value. Ambitious individuals naturally gravitate toward other ambitious individuals. Leaders seek out other leaders. Builders instinctively connect with other builders. If your aspiration is to sit at higher, more expansive tables, you must first consciously raise your own standard of behavior, of contribution, of personal integrity. You must consistently bring value, insatiable curiosity, unwavering discipline, and impeccable integrity to your interactions. Growth-based relationships, the most powerful kind, are inherently mutual. They are meticulously built on a foundation of profound respect, shared contribution, and aligned values, not mere convenience or superficiality. This chapter is not, let me emphasize, about fostering elitism or arrogance. It is profoundly about intelligent stewardship. You are personally responsible for protecting the mental, emotional, and social environments that relentlessly shape your mind, your potential, and your future. You are responsible for consciously choosing your influences, rather than passively drifting into them by default. If you habitually surround yourself with individuals who constantly complain, who consistently find fault, then do not be surprised if complaining subtly, yet powerfully, becomes your default language, your unconscious mode of expression. If you surround yourself with people who consistently compete to remain average, to maintain the status quo, then do not be surprised if the pursuit of excellence begins to feel unnecessary, even alien. But if you deliberately surround yourself with individuals who relentlessly chase their highest potential, who diligently build valuable skills, who embody and honor discipline, who fiercely value their time, who courageously encourage ambition, and who take absolute, uncompromising responsibility for their own outcomes, then, in that fertile environment, excellence will not merely be admired. It will become your expected, inherent default. Upgrade your circle, and you will automatically, profoundly upgrade your ambition, because in the right, intelligently curated environment, growth is not something you constantly need to justify or fight for. It is, instead, something you are consistently reminded and inspired to relentlessly pursue, asserting your ultimate personal liberty. Chapter 14. Convert failures into strategic adjustments. Failure is not the antithesis of success. Rather, it is an indispensable and integral part of the very process that meticulously creates success. Yet, the vast majority of people, when confronted with failure, treat it as a definitive verdict, a final judgment. They interpret it as irrefutable proof that they are inherently incapable, unworthy, or simply not cut out for what they aspire to achieve. They interpret failure through an emotional lens, personalizing it, instead of adopting a strategic, objective perspective. When failure is processed emotionally, it becomes a heavy burden, deeply personal, and often perceived as utterly final. When failure is, conversely, processed strategically, it transforms into invaluable data, objective feedback, and a precise guide for future action. The profound difference between those who consistently level up and those who perpetually stagnate is not that one group experiences fewer failures. It is that one group has mastered the art of intelligently converting failure into strategic adjustments, into actionable insights, rather than allowing it to define their identity or permanently derail their progress. To effectively convert failure, you must first fully accept a fundamental truth. Failure is unequivocally inevitable. There exists no path to genuine mastery, no journey to profound achievement that bypasses or avoids it entirely. Every skill you aspire to acquire, every career you endeavor to build, every personal transformation you seek, every grand ambition you pursue, all come with an inherent failure tax attached to them. You pay this tax up front through an accumulation of mistakes, moments of confusion, surges of frustration, and unavoidable setbacks. You cannot, by any means, skip this essential tax, but you possess the freedom to decide to pay it willingly, with a learner's mindset, or fearfully, with resistance and self-doubt. When you embrace failure as an essential cost of entry, as an unavoidable tuition fee for growth, you immediately cease perceiving it as a definitive sign to quit or retreat. But acceptance, while crucial, is only the beginning. After a failure occurs, most people instinctively respond with harsh self-judgment instead of curious inquiry. Judgment asks, with accusation, "What is wrong with me?" Curiosity, conversely, asks, with detached observation, "What exactly happened here? What can I learn?" Judgment constricts and shrinks your world, locking you into self-blame. Curiosity expands it, opening pathways to understanding and growth. Judgment abruptly concludes the narrative, marking an end. Curiosity, however, bravely continues it, seeking the next chapter. Curiosity is the defining mindset of someone who is actively building, innovating, and pushing forward. Judgment is the debilitating mindset of someone who is retreating, giving up. The very moment you consciously shift from self-judgment to genuine curiosity, failure profoundly transforms from a source of shame into a rich repository of valuable information. Information, let us be clear, is powerful, but information, by itself, is insufficient. You must diligently extract the right lessons from each failure. Not every failure carries the same message or implies the same corrective action. Sometimes, failure signals that your current skill set requires more development, more practice. Sometimes, it clearly indicates that your chosen strategy was flawed or misaligned. Sometimes, it reveals that your timing was simply off, premature, or too late. Sometimes, it highlights that your expectations were unrealistic or poorly calibrated. And sometimes, most painfully, it tells you that you simply gave up too early, abandoning the field before the seeds had a chance to sprout. The clarity and depth of insight you gain depend entirely on the quality of the questions you courageously ask yourself. Questions like, what specific part of this outcome was truly under my direct control? What single thing would I do differently if I had the opportunity to try again? At what point did the process itself break down or become inefficient? What crucial data or feedback am I consciously or unconsciously ignoring? These kinds of incisive questions, posed with detached objectivity, possess the power to transform even the most painful failure into a strategic advantage, a blueprint for future personal liberty. Another key element in this conversion process is speed. When failure is not processed quickly, when its lessons are not promptly extracted, it transforms into lingering emotional residue. People often become stuck, endlessly replaying their mistakes in a loop of regret instead of proactively adapting and moving forward. They become paralyzed by fear, hesitant to try again, because the vivid memory of discomfort and perceived inadequacy is louder than the faint echo of potential progress. Momentum dies, and with it, often, confidence. But when you learn to convert failure quickly, when you extract the lesson, adjust your strategy with agility, and courageously re-enter the arena, you actively maintain momentum. Momentum, let's be unequivocal, is far more valuable than the elusive pursuit of perfection. Momentum makes continuous improvement cumulative, building upon itself. Without momentum, every new attempt feels like you are starting from an overwhelming zero again. Now, let us address resilience once more from a slightly different angle. Resilience is not merely about enduring endless punishment or passively absorbing blows. It is, more accurately, about adapting faster than failure has the chance to discourage you. It is the profound capacity to absorb the impact of setbacks without losing your overall direction, your sense of purpose. Resilience is meticulously built through repeated reps. The more times you experience failure, courageously adjust your approach, and then re-engage, the more powerful evidence you accumulate that failure is not fatal, that it is merely temporary. That accumulated evidence fundamentally changes your relationship with risk. Risk becomes less frightening, less paralyzing, and more mathematical, more strategic. You begin to perceive failure not as an endpoint, but in terms of probabilities, iterations, and learning cycles. Once you consciously adopt this iterative mindset, progress itself becomes remarkably predictable, a natural byproduct of consistent effort. Failure also serves as an uncompromising revealer of true commitment. Many people enthusiastically embrace the idea of success, but they often deeply dislike the messy, demanding, uncomfortable process that inevitably produces it. They crave the reward without being willing to traverse the challenging, often awkward, learning curve in between. But enduring success, authentic personal liberty, unequivocally demands that learning curve. And that learning curve, by its very nature, demands mistakes. And mistakes, in turn, demand patience, persistence, and a willingness to look foolish. When you are genuinely willing to endure the learning curve, to embrace its inherent discomfort, you automatically reduce your competition. The vast majority of people, statistically, quit at the very first sign of difficulty. Others quit at the second. A brave few quit at the fifth. Almost no one, relatively speaking, keeps going long enough, learning long enough, to convert persistent failure into genuine mastery. If you are willing to stay in the game longer, to endure the discomfort, the field itself becomes significantly less crowded, leaving ample room for your ascent. But here is a subtle, yet crucial, truth. Not every failure is worth continuing from in the exact same direction. Part of intelligently converting failure is possessing the wisdom to know when to pivot. Pivoting is not synonymous with quitting. Pivoting is a deliberate, strategic course correction based on new information, new learning. Quitting, conversely, is abandoning your overall direction without extracting any meaningful lessons. Most truly great careers, most profoundly successful businesses, and most remarkable personal transformations are meticulously built on a foundation of intelligent pivots, not on rigid, unyielding plans. When failure unequivocally reveals that you are expending precious energy pushing in a direction with diminishing returns, where the effort significantly outweighs the potential reward, then pivoting is, without question, the intelligent, self-liberating move. Strategy, always, beats stubbornness. And finally, the often overlooked emotional side. Failure hurts. There is no benefit in pretending otherwise. It carries the weight of embarrassment, the sting of disappointment, the ache of frustration, and sometimes even the quiet grief of lost hope. But emotional pain, let us be clear, is not an automatic signal to stop or retreat. It is, instead, powerful evidence of your investment, of your care. You do not experience deep emotional pain over things you genuinely do not care about. The key, then, is to allow yourself to feel the emotion fully, to process it constructively, and then, crucially, to translate it into actionable insight without allowing it to dictate your ultimate conclusion. Emotional recovery is an integral, non-negotiable part of strategic adjustment. When you consistently convert failures into strategic adjustments, you cease being at war with the undeniable reality of life. You learn, instead, to actively collaborate with it. You begin to perceive life not as a series of tests you are constantly trying to pass perfectly, but as a continuous, dynamic feedback loop. And when life becomes a perpetual feedback loop, genuine growth, profound personal liberty is absolutely inevitable. You do not need perfection. You need consistent iteration. You need unwavering patience. You need cultivated resilience. And, above all, you need a deep, abiding willingness to continue, to persist. Failure is not the impenetrable barrier that blocks your path. Failure is profoundly the bridge itself. Those who bravely cross it, leveraging its lessons, inevitably level up. Those who fear it, who retreat from its discomfort, remain precisely where they are, bound by their past. Chapter 15. Improving Health and Wellness. The Foundation. Your health and wellness are, without question, the foundational bedrock upon which every other aspect of your life is built. No matter how naturally talented you are, how fiercely driven your ambition, or how intellectually intelligent you may be, if you are not consistently feeling your best, physically, mentally, and emotionally. It will prove incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to consistently perform at your highest, most liberated level. Improving your health and wellness is not merely about achieving a certain aesthetic or feeling marginally better in the short term. It is about making a profound, lifelong commitment to nurturing your body and mind so that you can sustain long-term success, maintain vibrant energy levels, and truly live a life that is fulfilling, exquisitely balanced, and deeply joyful. This is an act of radical self-stewardship, a declaration of personal liberty over your own well-being. The very first step toward genuinely improving your health is to cultivate an understanding of the deep, intrinsic connection between your physical vitality and your overall well-being. When you consistently feel healthy, when your body is nourished and cared for, you naturally possess more energy, greater mental clarity, and sharper focus. These vital resources, in turn, empower you to be more productive, more creative, and more profoundly motivated to relentlessly pursue your most cherished goals. Conversely, a state of poor health can insidiously drain your energy reserves, diminish your confidence, and make it exponentially harder to maintain a positive outlook and stay laser-focused on your objectives. Therefore, making your health non-negotiable priority is not a luxury or an optional indulgence. It is an absolute necessity if you genuinely aspire to level up in any area of your life. Regular exercise is one of the most critical components of a truly healthy, empowered lifestyle. Consistent physical activity not only strengthens your physical body, improves your cardiovascular health, and boosts your overall stamina, but it also profoundly elevates your mood and cognitive function. The benefits of exercise are truly immense, extending far beyond the purely physical realm and deeply impacting your mental and emotional state. Physical activity triggers the release of endorphins, the body's natural mood elevators, which actively help reduce the insidious effects of stress, anxiety, and depression. Moreover, consistent exercise sharpens your focus, enhances your memory, and significantly improves the quality of your sleep, allowing you to be more productive, more creative, and more energetically present throughout your day. A prime example of an individual who relentlessly prioritizes their physical health and wellness is Tom Brady, the legendary quarterback. Despite consistently playing into his late 40s, an age when the vast majority of professional athletes have long since retired, Brady has maintained an elite level of performance by adhering to an incredibly strict, meticulously crafted physical regimen. His unwavering commitment to his fitness routine, which includes a highly disciplined, balanced diet and rigorous, consistent workouts, has enabled him not only to extend his extraordinary career far beyond typical expectations, but also to remain at the absolute pinnacle of his demanding sport. Brady's profound dedication to maintaining his holistic health powerfully demonstrates that an intentional focus on fitness can directly and unequivocally contribute to long-term success, both in professional pursuits and in one's personal life, acting as a profound form of personal liberty. However, improving health is not solely about engaging in physical workouts. Diet and nutrition play an equally crucial, if not more fundamental, role in your overall wellness. What you choose to put into your body has a direct, profound impact on how you feel, how clearly you think, and how effectively your body and mind function. Consuming a balanced diet, rich in nutrient-dense fruits, vibrant vegetables, lean proteins, and healthy fats, helps to consistently fuel your body and sustain your energy levels throughout the day. A poor, nutrient-deficient diet, on the other hand, can leave you feeling sluggish, mentally foggy, and conspicuously lacking the sustained energy required to accomplish your most important goals. Proper nutrition also robustly supports your immune system, helps maintain a healthy body weight, and contributes significantly to overall longevity and vitality. The key to a truly healthy diet is balance, not deprivation. Instead of fixating on restrictive diets, fleeting fads, or quick, unsustainable fixes, aim to make gradual, sustainable, healthy food choices that genuinely nourish your body and mind for the long term. Start small by making incremental changes, perhaps swapping processed snacks for more wholesome, natural options, increasing your daily water intake, or consciously incorporating more whole, unprocessed foods into your meals. Small, consistent changes, diligently accumulated over time, inevitably lead to massive, lasting improvements in your overall health and personal liberty. For instance, Michelle Obama, during her impactful tenure as First Lady, passionately advocated for healthy eating and active lifestyles through her Let Us Move initiative. Her work emphasized the profound importance of creating sustainable habits that lead to better long-term health outcomes, powerfully demonstrating that even seemingly small changes, when consistently applied, can make a monumental difference over time. In addition to physical health, your mental health is just as, if not more, crucial for holistic wellness and a truly leveled-up life. Nurturing your mind is absolutely essential for effectively coping with life's inevitable stressors, maintaining emotional balance, and staying laser-focused on your goals. Practicing mindfulness, engaging in meditation, and implementing various relaxation techniques can profoundly help reduce stress, calm an overactive mind, and significantly improve your mental clarity. Engaging in intrinsically joyful activities, such as reflective journaling, spending restorative time in nature, pursuing fulfilling hobbies, or connecting with loved ones, can help recharge your emotional batteries and foster a sense of inner peace. Mental wellness involves intentionally taking time for yourself, intelligently managing stress, and proactively addressing any negative thought patterns or self-limiting beliefs that may be holding you back from your potential. Sleep is another vital, yet frequently overlooked, element of holistic health. Quality, restorative sleep is absolutely essential for physical recovery, optimal mental clarity, and profound emotional well-being. When you consistently deprive yourself of adequate sleep, your body and mind simply cannot function at their best. This deficit inevitably impacts your cognitive performance, your decision-making abilities, your emotional regulation, and your overall mood. Sleep is the sacred time when your body meticulously repairs itself and your brain processes and consolidates information, solidifying learning. Aim to establish a consistent sleep routine. Go to bed at the same time each night and create a calming, conducive nighttime environment that actively promotes deep relaxation and uninterrupted rest. Arianna Huffington, the visionary founder of the Huffington Post, powerfully exemplifies the critical importance of sleep. After experiencing a debilitating burnout due to chronic sleep deprivation, Huffington made it her personal mission to raise global awareness about the profound importance of sleep and its direct, undeniable connection to overall well-being and peak performance. She authored The Sleep Revolution and became a passionate advocate for better sleep hygiene, promoting rest as a vital component of personal and professional success. Huffington's story powerfully highlights that prioritizing quality sleep is not merely about feeling rested, it is, fundamentally, about optimizing your capacity to perform at your absolute best and to lead a healthy, balanced, and liberated life. In conclusion, Improving your health and wellness is one of the single most important investments you can make in your future, a core pillar of personal liberty. By consistently incorporating regular physical exercise, maintaining a balanced and nourishing diet, diligently practicing mindfulness and mental self-care, and prioritizing high-quality sleep, you can construct an unshakable foundation that robustly supports both your personal aspirations and your professional success. Your health is the indispensable vehicle through which you achieve your deepest dreams and highest potential. If your body and mind are not functioning at their absolute best, it will prove incredibly challenging to perform at your highest, most effective level. Start taking small, intentional steps today to invest in your health and wellness, and then observe, with profound satisfaction, how these consistent improvements powerfully help you level up in every single area of your magnificent life. Chapter 16. Do what is hard before you feel ready. There is a pervasive and insidious myth that paralyzes more individuals from truly transforming their lives than almost any other belief. The erroneous conviction that readiness must unequivocally precede action. This myth whispers that you must feel perfectly confident before you pursue the next level, that you must feel absolutely certain before you dare to take calculated risks, that you must feel completely qualified before you courageously step into the arena of challenge. But in the stark light of reality, readiness rarely, if ever, comes first. Action comes first. Confidence, true and earned, comes later, as a direct result. The individuals who consistently level up, who achieve profound personal liberty, are not the ones who patiently waited until they felt ready. They are, instead, the audacious ones who move forward while still uncertain, still inexperienced, still intimidated, and yes, still profoundly afraid. They made the conscious, courageous choice to do what felt undeniably hard before they felt entirely prepared. And that singular decision, repeated consistently, fundamentally changed the entire trajectory of their lives. Doing what is hard before you feel ready is the crucible in which genuine capacity is forged. Capacity is the intrinsic ability that allows you to confidently take on bigger challenges, seize greater opportunities, and shoulder more significant responsibilities. Many people yearn for bigger opportunities, for greater rewards, but they simultaneously desire those opportunities to arrive with the familiar comfort level of their current capacity. That, my friend, is fundamentally not how authentic growth works. Life, in its wisdom, often tests you upstream. It presents you with smaller, manageable versions of the challenges you will eventually need to handle on a much larger scale. If you instinctively avoid these smaller, uncomfortable challenges because they feel daunting or inconvenient, you will, with predictable certainty, never graduate to the bigger, more meaningful ones. You remain perpetually stuck at a level where everything feels inherently doable, but, tragically, nothing feels genuinely meaningful or deeply fulfilling. Now, here is a crucial truth. Doing what is hard does not equate to recklessness or impulsive behavior. It signifies, profoundly, expansion. It means consciously stepping into discomfort, into the unknown, with unwavering intention and purpose. It means making the deliberate choice of embracing challenge over succumbing to stagnation. It means allowing your future, wiser self to courageously lead, rather than permitting your present, protective self to dictate your actions. And perhaps most importantly, it means resolutely showing up and taking action despite the incessant internal voice that insists you are not adequately ready, are not sufficiently prepared. That voice, the voice of doubt and fear, will always be present, a constant companion on your journey. The voice does not magically disappear as you grow. It simply moves farther and farther away from the driver's seat of your decisions. Every major, life-altering transformation begins with the courageous act of doing something that, in the moment, feels undeniably premature. Starting a new business venture before you possess a comprehensive understanding of every facet of business. Declaring yourself a writer before a single soul has read your words. Commencing a rigorous training regimen before you are in peak physical shape. Speaking your truth or presenting your ideas before you feel perfectly articulate or polished. Stepping into a leadership role before you feel entirely confident in your abilities. You do not, my friend, become genuinely ready through endless contemplation or passive intellectualization. You become ready, unequivocally, through doing. Action trains the brain. Action teaches invaluable skills. Action builds familiarity, reduces the unknown. Action, powerfully and consistently, reduces fear. Nothing, absolutely nothing, can substitute for the profound power of taking action. Fear, particularly the quiet, insidious kind, is a major barrier here. We are not talking about dramatic, life-threatening fear, but the subtle, persistent whispers. Fear of embarrassment, fear of failure, fear of wasting precious time, fear of being misunderstood or judged, fear of looking foolish. These fears do not typically shout, they whisper, cunningly disguising themselves as rationalizations. They whisper excuses like, maybe later, or let me prepare just a bit more, or the timing is not quite right, or I need to learn a few more things before I start, or I really do not want to get it wrong. These phrases, on the surface, sound logical, prudent, and entirely rational. But they are, in their core essence, fear disguised as logic, designed to keep you safely within your comfort zone, away from personal liberty. The perfect time, the ideal moment, never, ever arrives. Waiting for absolute certainty is the fastest, most effective way to squander your boundless potential. There is also the subtle trap of over-preparation. Preparation is undeniably valuable, but only up to a certain critical point. Beyond that optimal point, preparation itself subtly morphs into delay. Delay, in turn, transforms into insidious avoidance. Avoidance solidifies into deep-seated stagnation, and stagnation, given enough time, becomes an entrenched identity. Soon, it is not merely that you are not doing the hard thing. You have, through repeated inaction, become someone who does not do hard things. That is a truly dangerous, life-limiting shift, because once a negative identity forms, it becomes exponentially harder to break free from its grip. When you courageously force yourself to do what feels hard before you feel entirely ready, you collect a fundamentally different, far more empowering kind of evidence. You gather evidence that you are inherently capable, evidence that you possess the innate ability to learn, evidence that you can fluidly adapt to unforeseen circumstances, evidence that you can, with quiet confidence, figure things out while in motion. Most of the confidence that people relentlessly chase is, in fact, the direct result of this hard-won, earned evidence. Confidence is not a spontaneous gift bestowed upon the fortunate. It is profoundly a receipt, proof that you have survived difficulty, that you have acted without guarantees, that you are the kind of person who moves, who takes charge of their personal liberty. Doing what is hard also powerfully accelerates your learning curve. When you deliberately enter environments and situations that stretch you, that demand more from you, you are intrinsically forced to grow faster, to adapt more quickly. Genuine, transformative learning rarely happens in the comfortable, familiar confines of your existing knowledge. Comfort, by its very nature, protects what you already know, what feels safe. True growth demands challenge, necessitates mistakes, thrives on constructive feedback, requires constant recalibration, and relies on consistent iteration. When you courageously step into difficulty early, you gift yourself more cycles of learning, more opportunities to adapt and improve. More cycles translate into more profound adaptation. More adaptation, in turn, leads to greater mastery. You will inevitably notice something else remarkable when you consistently start doing what is hard. Fear itself begins to shrink, not because the external world fundamentally changes or becomes less challenging, but because your internal tolerance for discomfort, your capacity for resilience, powerfully expands. Things that once felt intimidating or overwhelming become your new normal. Things that once seemed utterly impossible become, through consistent action, routine. That, precisely, is how genuine leveling up works. It does not magically make life easier. It makes you stronger, more capable, more free. And once you become stronger, the very hard things you once feared become the new baseline from which you confidently operate. Another important distinction to internalize. You do not have to feel confident to take action. You only need to feel committed. Confidence is an emotion, often fleeting. Commitment is a steadfast direction, an unwavering resolve. Confidence asks, "Do I feel like I can do this?" Commitment asks, "Is this goal, this action, important enough for me to act on regardless of how I feel?" Commitment, with its quiet power, carries you forward until confidence eventually catches up and, in fact, creates more confidence. That profound sequence, commitment leading to action, and action leading to confidence, geeks the authentic blueprint for how transformation unfolds in the real world, how personal liberty is earned. Finally, understand that most significant breakthroughs, most moments of profound clarity and progress, lie on the other side of early discomfort. Many people spend their entire lives passively waiting for the discomfort to magically disappear before they will even begin, never realizing that the discomfort itself often disappears precisely because they begin. The path to your desired future does not become smoother or easier until you actually step onto it. The paralyzing grip of fear does not shrink until you courageously confront it. The unsettling uncertainty does not fade until you bravely experiment, iterate, and take action. Movement, purposeful movement, creates clarity. Passive waiting, conversely, often creates only confusion and regret. Doing what is hard before you feel ready is not merely a tactical maneuver. It is a profound philosophy of life, a powerful mindset. It is a way of approaching your existence that consciously places growth ahead of fleeting comfort, relentless progress ahead of elusive perfection, and decisive action ahead of paralyzing hesitation. It is how you courageously escape the debilitating loop of perpetual preparation without actual execution. It is how you meticulously build a life that continuously expands and evolves instead of contracting and stagnating. Level up your life by moving sooner, by acting bolder than you think you should. The most empowered, liberated future version of you is patiently waiting for that courageous first step. Chapter 17. Live by values that hold up under pressure. At the exciting genesis of any personal transformation, it is remarkably easy to articulate ambitious goals, construct detailed plans, and vividly imagine a better, brighter future. But what truly sustains a profound, lasting transformation is not merely the pursuit of goals. It is, at its core, an unwavering commitment to deeply held values. Goals define what you ultimately want to achieve, your desired destinations. Values, however, define how you consistently choose to act, your compass for the journey. And the precise moment, Life applies its inevitable pressure when the path becomes arduous, when the stakes are high, when the consequences are real. The six is when your true values reveal themselves, unvarnished and undeniable. Anyone, let us be honest, can claim to possess discipline when they feel a surge of motivation. Anyone can espouse integrity when it is convenient, when it costs them nothing. Anyone can declare grand ambition when the path ahead is smooth, clear, and devoid of obstacles. But the values that genuinely define your life, the principles that truly constitute your moral and ethical fiber, are the ones you steadfastly uphold when the situation is difficult, inconvenient, when it is unglamorous, and when it actively demands a sacrifice. The values that possess the internal fortitude to survive and thrive under immense pressure are, without question, the very values that will ultimately shape your future, determining the quality of your personal liberty. Values function as powerful internal guardrails. They intelligently guide your decision-making processes when seductive distractions arise, when tempting opportunities appear that might be misaligned with your deeper purpose, when emotions threaten to push you toward impulsive, regrettable choices. Without a clearly defined set of values, you inevitably drift, tossed about by external currents and fleeting whims. With values, however, you navigate life with purpose, with intention, with a profound sense of self-ownership. And here is a crucial point. If you fail to consciously define your own values, the world, through its relentless trends, its myriad opinions, and the unspoken expectations of others, will, without hesitation, define them for you. That, tragically, is precisely how countless individuals end up pursuing paths that might superficially impress others, but utterly fail to genuinely fulfill them. To truly live by your values, you must first undertake the rigorous, often uncomfortable, process of defining them, not the vague, sanitized, polished values that look good on motivational posters. We are talking about real values, values that come with a cost, values that demand sacrifice, values that compel you to choose, sometimes painfully, between immediate comfort and profound, long-term alignment with your highest self. A value like discipline, for instance, means courageously waking up when every fiber of your being would rather succumb to the lure of sleep. A value like honesty means resolutely telling the truth, even when a convenient lie would seem far easier or more advantageous in the short term. A value like growth means consistently choosing the uncomfortable, challenging path instead of the familiar, stagnant one. A value like accountability means courageously owning your mistakes, your shortcomings, instead of instinctively defending or deflecting them. Real values are not mere intellectual constructs. They demand concrete, consistent action. But values also demand rigorous prioritization. You cannot effectively live by 20 different values simultaneously. If everything is equally important, then, by definition, nothing truly is. Clarity emerges from the courageous act of ranking. Which values, when push comes to shove, will ultimately define your behavior, your decisions? Which values matter enough to fiercely protect, to actively defend, even when it is unpopular or difficult? Which values intrinsically belong to the future identity you are meticulously building, the liberated self you are becoming? For many, the answers might include discipline, unshakable integrity, radical responsibility, insatiable curiosity, profound humility, quiet courage, respectful engagement, and relentless growth. But the specific list, while important, is ultimately less critical than the depth of your unwavering commitment to living by them. A value that is merely declared but not consistently lived, day in and day out, is simply a hollow slogan. Pressure, in its unforgiving intensity, powerfully reveals authenticity. It strips away pretense and shows, without equivocation, who you truly are at your core. And the room is empty, when no one is watching, when no one is applauding your efforts, when the results are painfully slow to materialize, and corrosive doubt begins to creep into your mind. When the path ahead is shrouded in uncertainty, and failure appears repeatedly, testing your resolve. These crucibles of pressure, your values are powerful, precisely because they offer an unshakable stability. When your emotions are unstable, volatile, and overwhelming, you can still feel profound fear and yet choose to act courageously if courage is a deeply held value. You can feel utterly exhausted and yet still show up, still put in the work, if discipline is a non-negotiable value. You can feel immensely frustrated and yet still remain open to learning, still adapt, if growth is a core value. Values, therefore, provide you with an internal blueprint for action that does not depend on the unpredictable whims of emotional weather. Living by deeply held values also serves as an invaluable shield, protecting you from the seductive allure of shortcuts. In a world relentlessly obsessed with speed and instant gratification, shortcuts often appear incredibly tempting, promising quicker, easier paths to success. But shortcuts, almost without exception, rarely build profound character. And it is character, far more than skill or talent alone, that ultimately determines how long and how gracefully you can sustain success once you achieve it. Many individuals, tragically, reach the apex of a career, a business, or an aspiration only to crumble under the unexpected weight of what they have built, not because they lack the necessary skill or talent, but because they lack the foundational values that could consistently sustain them in. Their elevated position. Skill often gets you in the room. Values, however, determine whether you remain there, whether you flourish. Values also profoundly influence the quality of your relationships. The people you connect with most deeply, most meaningfully, are rarely bonded by superficial hobbies or mere convenience. They are bonded, at their core, through shared values, through an alignment of fundamental principles. When you consciously surround yourself with individuals who genuinely share your core values, you naturally gain profound alignment, consistent accountability, and unstoppable momentum. When you, conversely, surround yourself with people who consistently violate or disregard your core values, you will inevitably experience persistent stress, debilitating confusion, and internal conflict, eroding your personal liberty. The right values, like a powerful magnet, attract the right people into your life, and the right people, in turn, reinforce the right, elevated standards for your life. But perhaps the most transformative aspect of values is their profound role in shaping your identity. Identity is not merely constructed through empty affirmations or wishful thinking alone. It is meticulously built, brick by brick, through repeated, consistent decisions and actions that are in unwavering alignment with your chosen values. If you consistently act with discipline, repeatedly, you irrevocably become disciplined. If you consistently act with courage, repeatedly, you irrevocably become courageous. If you consistently act with integrity, repeatedly, you irrevocably become trustworthy. Identity, at its core, is the accumulated sum of your lived values. However, just as you evolve, your values must also possess the fluidity to evolve with you. A value that served you brilliantly during a period of survival mode may not necessarily serve you effectively during a period of profound growth. A value that helped you skillfully avoid risk may need to be intelligently replaced by a value that actively embraces it. True transformation demands a courageous reevaluation of what you stand for, what you prioritize, and what you are unequivocally no longer willing to tolerate in your pursuit of personal liberty. A new, elevated chapter in your life often demands new, refined values, or, at the very least, a deeper, more unwavering commitment to existing ones. Living by values that consistently hold up under pressure is not about achieving an elusive state of moral perfection. It is profoundly about achieving consistent alignment between your inner compass and your outer actions. You will, undoubtedly, fail to uphold your own values at times. You will fall short, make mistakes, and, occasionally, act out of raw emotion instead of principle. That, let me assure you, does not disqualify you from the journey. What truly matters is your unwavering commitment to returning to alignment, to course correcting, to getting back on track. Real values are not static possessions you merely have. They are dynamic practices you actively lives, you actively swasmati, day after day. At the highest level, living by values that hold up under pressure bestows upon you something exceptionally rare and profoundly precious. A life you genuinely respect, not a life that others might envy. Not a life that impresses fleeting strangers, but a life you respect privately, profoundly, without the need for external applause or validation. That, my friend, is the unshakable foundation of durable transformation, the bedrock of true personal liberty. When you live by values that consistently hold up under pressure, your future becomes something you meticulously build with intentionality, purpose, and self-ownership, instead of something you merely stumble into accidentally. Chapter 18. Play for decades, not days. Your life plan. One of the most profound and necessary shifts you must make if you genuinely aspire to level up your life, to claim true, enduring personal liberty, is to cultivate the discipline and wisdom to think in terms of decades rather than being confined to the fleeting cycles of days or weeks. Most people, unfortunately, collapse their entire life vision, their grand aspirations, into incredibly short timelines. They crave results this week. They demand validation right now. They expect significant progress immediately. But meaningful, transformative change, authentic personal growth, rarely, if ever, operates on such short-term cycles. Genuine growth takes time. The acquisition of mastery takes time. The cultivation of profound skills takes time. And the most extraordinary, enduring results are invariably reserved for those rare individuals who are unequivocally willing to stay the course, to persist diligently, long after the initial excitement has faded, and long after the world has ceased to notice or applaud their efforts. Short-term thinking, by its very nature, generates frantic, unsustainable behavior. It manifests as constantly starting over, perpetually switching strategies, relentlessly chasing novelty and fleeting trends, and, most destructively, habitually abandoning progress because the desired results failed to arrive fast enough. This creates a life filled with endless motion, but tragically devoid of meaningful direction. You may feel busy, you may feel perpetually tired, you may feel overwhelmed, but beneath it all, you do not feel genuinely fulfilled, deeply accomplished, or truly liberated. Short-term thinking relentlessly demands intensity, a burst of unsustainable effort. Long-term thinking, conversely, demands unwavering consistency, a steady, persistent, manageable effort. Intensity, inevitably, burns out. Consistency, however, compounds its effects, building exponentially over time. When you consciously choose to play for decades, you liberate yourself from the suffocating pressure of needing to win every single day. You do not collapse emotionally when things inevitably take longer than initially expected. You do not feel utterly defeated when you are still in the uncomfortable learning phase in year 1, or even year 5. You deeply understand that true mastery is meticulously built through numerous, often messy, cycles of effort, learning, and iteration. You grasp the profound truth that seeds need time to germinate, to take root, to grow. You internalize the wisdom that what feels excruciatingly slow in the immediate moment often feels remarkably fast and inevitable in hindsight, when you look back from a broader perspective. When you zoom out far enough, when you adopt that decades-long lens, the immediate struggles, the daily frustrations, shrink in significance, and the larger, more powerful patterns of growth and progress unmistakably emerge. There is another profound advantage to adopting a long-term mindset. It significantly lowers emotional volatility. When your perspective is limited to mere days or weeks, every minor setback feels catastrophic, every small delay feels like an undeniable failure, every mistake seems utterly final and irreversible. But when you consciously choose to think in terms of decades, mistakes are reframed as valuable data points, temporary setbacks become merely chapters in a longer story, and failures are intelligently reinterpreted as necessary adjustments. You begin to perceive and treat your entire life as a grand, unfolding project, a magnum opus, rather than a short, high-stakes test with immediate pass-or-fail outcomes. That fundamental shift in perspective, by itself, dramatically increases your innate resilience and your capacity for sustained personal liberty. Long-term thinking also fundamentally changes how you choose to invest in yourself and your future. When you play for days, for immediate gratification, you instinctively seek out hacks, quick shortcuts, and clever tricks. When you play for decades, for enduring value, you consistently seek out foundational skills, robust character development, and reliable, scalable systems. Hacks inevitably fade and become obsolete when the external environment changes. Foundational skills, however, survive and thrive in every conceivable environment. Shortcuts invariably fall apart, exposing their fragility when external pressure increases. Strong character, however, holds firm and becomes more defined under pressure. Tricks cease to work when their novelty wears off. Well-designed systems, conversely, work reliably, consistently, every single time. When you consciously choose to play for decades, you intelligently invest your most precious resources, your time, your energy, your attention, in things that inherently retain and amplify their value over time. Another critical element is patience, but not the passive wait and hope kind of patience, not the resigned sit and believe kind of patience. True, long-term patience is profoundly active. It means diligently working while waiting for results to manifest. It means consistently improving your craft, your skills, your mindset, even while the external results are quiet, imperceptible, or slow. It means meticulously preparing, building, and refining while the world around you is not even noticing your efforts. Most people struggle immensely with patience because they mistakenly confuse it with inactivity or inertia. But anyone who has ever truly mastered anything, who has achieved profound personal liberty, knows that the most significant, transformative work often happens in the quiet, unseen phases of dedicated effort. When you wholeheartedly commit to a decades-long lens, you also begin the strategic practice of choosing the hard things next, so that the easier, more fulfilling things can arrive later as a natural consequence. Most people, unfortunately, do the exact opposite. They instinctively choose the easy, comfortable things now, only to pay for those short-sighted choices later with accumulated interest in the form of regret, limitation, and instability. It is easy to avoid discomfort in the present moment, but the bill for that avoidance inevitably comes due in the currency of regret. It is easy to avoid challenging learning now, but the bill comes due in intellectual and experiential limitation. It is easy to avoid diligent discipline now, but the bill comes due in personal instability and lack of progress. Long-term players consciously accept the discomfort up front, making strategic investments in their future, so they can genuinely enjoy the profound freedom and rewards later. But here is an important nuance. Playing for decades does not, emphatically, mean delaying all rewards indefinitely. It means intelligently structuring your behavior, your efforts, and your systems so that meaningful rewards continue to appear consistently over time, rather than in one explosive, unsustainable burst. Think of it like compounding interest. At first, the progress feels almost invisible, imperceptible, buried beneath the surface. Then, it gradually becomes noticeable, detectable. Then, with an accelerating force, it becomes undeniable, overtly evident. And finally, it transcends into the exponential, transforming your reality. Compounding, whether in finance or personal growth, is always quiet, subtle, and often frustratingly slow in the beginning. That is precisely why so many people prematurely give up before its powerful effects truly activate. They quit in the silent phase, just before the magic begins. Long-term thinking also profoundly affects your identity. When you play for days, for immediate results, your identity becomes fragile, conditional. You desperately need immediate results to feel valid, to feel worthy. You crave external applause and validation to feel motivated. You need a constant surge of momentum to feel confident. But when you consciously choose to play for decades, you intelligently separate your core identity from immediate, short-term outcomes. You can experience temporary losses, setbacks, or periods of struggle without losing your sense of self, without abandoning your unwavering belief in your future. You can endure slow, challenging seasons without impulsively rewriting your entire narrative or abandoning your aspirations. The long-term player, the truly liberated individual, does not quit prematurely because the long-term player is not keeping score on day 3 or even day 300. Their scoreboard is measured in decades, in lifetimes. And perhaps the most profoundly liberating part of all, a decades-long perspective virtually removes the insidious trap of comparison. When you play for decades, you cease comparing your humble chapter 2 to someone else's seemingly glorious chapter 12. You stop frantically racing against strangers, constantly trying to catch up to their perceived progress. You recognize that you are not engaged in a desperate sprint. You are, instead, purposefully running marathon. And once you deeply internalize that truth, the oppressive pressure shifts from frantic urgency to deliberate, intentional direction. Speed matters far less than the consistent, unwavering trajectory. Immediate pace matters less than steady, cumulative progress. Decades-level thinking creates a life that, almost magically, gets consistently better as you move forward. A life where your reputation builds with integrity, your skills mature with grace, your relationships deepen with profound connection, your wisdom expands with experience, and your opportunities multiply with your growing capacity. It builds a life where the profound payoff you experience at 40, 50, 60, or even beyond dwarfs anything you could have possibly imagined or hoped for in your 20s. Most people tragically underestimate what they are truly capable of becoming in 10 years because they are far too obsessively fixated on what they can achieve in a mere 10 days. If there is one singular message to imprint deeply into your being, it is this: you simply cannot build a legendary life, a life of profound personal liberty, on a short-term mindset. Leveling up is not a fleeting weekend activity. It is not a temporary season you pass through. It is a profound, lifelong strategy. Those who commit wholeheartedly to the long game do not just change their immediate results. They fundamentally change their identity, their inherent capacity, and the entire landscape of their future. When you consciously choose to play for decades, you cease merely hoping your life will change someday. You build it deliberately, patiently, powerfully, brick by brick, chapter by chapter, year by year, until your dreams become your reality. Conclusion: transformation is not a mystery. It is not a random twist of luck, a predetermined genetic endowment, or an accidental byproduct of circumstance. It is profoundly a blueprint, a deliberate sequence, a collection of intentional decisions and consistent practices diligently carried out long enough to fundamentally reshape your identity and, as an inevitable consequence, produce extraordinary results. The journey we have just traversed together, through the principles of how to level up your life in 2026, is far from theoretical. It is intensely practical. It is meant to be lived, to be embodied, to be integrated into the fabric of your daily existence. It is firmly grounded in timeless principles that have held true across generations, across diverse industries, across myriad cultures, and across every single domain, where excellence is the undeniable standard, and not just a distant, unfulfilled dream. Leveling up, as we have explored, begins with the courageous act of choosing, with deliberate intention, who you want to become. It then demands the resolute refusal of the life you have been tolerating, the subtle but insidious compromises you have made. It compels you to diligently audit the inputs, endlessly shape your mind and your behavior. This journey continues with the proactive interruption of the old, limiting patterns that keep you average, and the intelligent design of powerful routines that put you on offense, actively shaping your destiny, rather than passively leaving you reacting to everything external. It deepens profoundly when you learn to skillfully control the vital friction between your fleeting emotions and your intentional actions, for that precisely is where most people inadvertently lose themselves, surrendering their personal liberty. Your transformation accelerates when you courageously reclaim your most precious resource, your time, from the clutches of distraction and misaligned obligations. It intensifies as you meticulously rebuild your environment to actively support your highest aspirations, and as you diligently acquire skills that consistently pay you invaluable dividends for life. It matures when discipline, that quiet, unyielding force, replaces capricious desire as the primary fuel for your consistent progress. It expands exponentially when you thoughtfully upgrade your social circle to elevate your ambition, when you learn to convert inevitable failures into strategic, actionable adjustments, and when you summon the courage to do what feels undeniably hard before you ever feel truly ready. And, finally, this profound transformation becomes durable, resilient, and enduring when you choose to live by unshakable values that hold up under pressure, and when you commit wholeheartedly to playing the long game, to thinking and acting for decades, rather than being confined to the fleeting cycles of days. If you step back now and observe this grand blueprint, this holistic strategy, you will undoubtedly notice something profoundly important. Nothing in this entire framework demands unattainable perfection. Nothing requires superhuman talent or innate genius. Nothing necessitates a flawless, error-free run. You do not need to have every single detail meticulously figured out before you begin. You do not need to entirely eliminate fear from your being. You do not need to feel a perfect sense of readiness before you take that crucial first step. The profound transformation you deeply seek is not patiently waiting for some elusive, ideal moment to arrive. It is, instead, patiently waiting for your unwavering commitment, for your decision to begin. The future, elevated version of you is not forged in a single, dramatic breakthrough or a sudden, miraculous epiphany. It is meticulously built in the countless quiet decisions, repeated consistently, day after day. It is built in the early mornings when your internal voice begs for more sleep, but your commitment to discipline wins the internal argument. It is built in the late evenings when you would rather escape into distraction, but you choose instead to invest in your improvement, your growth. It is built in the uncomfortable conversations you bravely initiate, rather than conveniently avoid. It is built in the valuable skills you diligently practice, persistently, when no one else is watching, when there is no applause. It is built in the robust boundaries you courageously enforce, even when others expect constant access to your time and energy. It is built, fundamentally, in those pivotal moments when discipline, that quiet, steadfast force, consistently wins the internal argument against the temporary dictates of emotion. That, my friend, is where authentic transformation actually happens. And here is the most empowering, most liberating truth of all. You do not have to attempt to transform everything at once. The sheer magnitude of change can feel overwhelming. You just have to begin. Begin with one pattern, one limiting habit to interrupt. Begin with one powerful routine, one consistent action to establish. Begin with one core value, one principle to embody. Begin with one boundary, one area of your life to protect. Begin with one unwavering commitment, one promise to keep to yourself. Momentum, that irresistible force of progress, is created through motion, not through endless contemplation or paralyzing analysis. Once consistent motion begins, clarity, like a beacon, inevitably follows. Once clarity arrives, genuine confidence begins to form, slowly but surely. Once confidence solidifies, consistency itself becomes lighter, more effortless, less of a struggle. And once consistency takes hold, compounding, that silent, powerful force inevitably does the rest, transforming your life beyond your wildest imagination. Leveling up is not, ultimately, about becoming someone else entirely. It is profoundly about becoming the highest, most authentic version of you that has always been possible. The version that ambition quietly whispered about, that discomfort subtly hinted at, that regret powerfully warned of, and that your boundless potential quietly, persistently demanded. That version of you is not some distant, unattainable ideal. It is not a theoretical construct. It is patiently waiting on the other side of aligned, intentional action. Carry this profound truth with you, etched into your very being. You are the architect of your future. You possess the inherent power, the ultimate personal liberty, to redesign your habits, to elevate your standards, to expand your skills, to sculpt your environment, to curate your relationships, and to forge a new, empowered identity. You can consciously choose to stop living life on autopilot, passively reacting to circumstances, and courageously start living life on purpose, with deliberate intention. You can choose to live a life that continuously expands, that compounds, that moves relentlessly forward, rather than one that contracts, collapses, or endlessly circles the same familiar ground. This blueprint works. These principles are timeless, but they only work if you, the listener, choose to actively use them, to integrate them into your life. The question is no longer, can you change? The evidence, the timeless wisdom, the countless examples, all confirm that you absolutely can. The only remaining question, the most crucial one, is this: will you begin?